It wasn't until her wedding day that Serena Morgan realized she wasn't like other women. She would never forget that night. Lying on the red sheets her mother had carefully chosen, she endured the weight of her new husband, Gideon Cole. The unusual pain lasted for what felt like an eternity, so intense she thought she might pass out. Finally, she couldn't bear it any longer and whispered to the man on top of her, "Gideon, are you done yet?" Gideon's answer was a sharp slap across her face. Stunned, Serena looked up to see him standing over her, drenched in sweat, his eyes bloodshot. He spat at her. "Serena, you liar, why didn't you tell me you were a defective woman, a defective woman?" It was the first time Serena had ever heard that term. It was foreign, but she could tell it was anything but good. She watched in shock as her new husband stormed out of the room. With trembling hands, she took out her phone and searched for the term. In that instant, she finally understood. She was different from other women. Or, to be more precise, she didn't even deserve to be called a woman. The next day, Gideon and his mother, Martha, showed up at the Morgan house, demanding the return of the $10,000 bride price. Serena's parents were honest, working-class people. They had never known anything was different about their daughter. When they finally understood, their faces flushed with shame. "We're sorry, we didn't know, we really didn't know." Her mother, a woman who rarely spoke above a whisper, dissolved into tears. "I truly had no idea our daughter, if we had known, we never would have agreed to this marriage." Her father, a man of few words, bowed his head repeatedly, his wrinkled face etched with humiliation. But Martha Cole was relentless. On top of the $10,000 bride price, she demanded compensation for so-called emotional distress. "It's all because of your disgraceful daughter, now our son is the laughingstock of the neighborhood," Martha shrieked, stomping her foot. "If people find out our son married a defective woman, how can the Cole family ever show its face in public again?" The threat drained the color from Serena's parents' faces. "Please, I'm begging you, don't." Serena's mother dropped to her knees, sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. "Please, don't tell anyone our Serena's secret. If people found out, Serena would never be able to marry." Serena hid in her room. Her mother had forbidden her from coming out. She could only peek through the crack in the door. When she saw her mother kneeling, she couldn't hold back any longer. "Mom, why are you kneeling?" she cried, running out. "Why are you apologizing? She hadn't done anything wrong. Why were her parents groveling like this?" She tried to pull her mother up from the floor, but her mother gripped her arm with surprising strength. "Serena!" Her mother's eyes were wide, her tear-streaked face pale and frenzied. "Hurry up and apologize to Gideon's parents. Apologize now." But Serena, who had always been obedient, stubbornly shook her head, refusing to apologize. "No, I won't. I didn't do anything wrong. Why should I apologize?" Her mother ignored her protests, pressing down on her forehead with all her might, forcing her to bow her head, repeating "I'm sorry" to the Coles over and over again. At 22 years old, Serena learned for the first time that a person could be forced to apologize for a mistake they never made. In the end, the Morgans returned the money. The $10,000 bride price, plus the so-called emotional distress fee, added up to over $20,000. For a family like Serena's, it was a staggering sum. Her mother cried every day, and whenever Serena left the house, people would point and whisper. In a town that small, nothing stayed secret for long. Gideon's parents might not have explicitly said what was wrong with Serena, but a wedding that was held and then immediately annulled was enough to set tongues wagging. Her parents finally mustered their courage and took Serena to see a doctor in the city. If they couldn't fix her body, she would never be able to be a complete woman. The city hospital was incredibly busy. After seeing the doctor, Serena was told she'd have to wait 2 days for the test results. The relatives she was staying with made no secret of her unwelcome presence. Feeling like an imposition, Serena decided to go out for dinner to stay out of their way. The city at night was a world away from her small town. Even after 9 o'clock, the streets blazed with light. It was Serena's first time witnessing such dazzling extravagance. She felt bewitched, wandering aimlessly until she found herself in front of the most glamorous club in the city center. Stepping inside, Serena felt completely out of place. Surrounded by women in daring outfits and heavy makeup, she felt like a country bumpkin. Lost and unsure of what to do, she ordered a drink at the bar whose name she couldn't even pronounce. It was sweet and sour and delicious, but a few minutes later, a heavy fog began to cloud her mind. Her body felt like it was on fire, about to explode. She struggled to get up and leave, but as she stood, she stumbled into a man. The rich scent of a cigar washed over her. A strong hand steadied her, and a low, masculine voice sounded by her ear. "Are you all right?" Serena dazedly lifted her head and saw the tall man before her. The club's dim lights cast shadows across his chiseled features, and in his eyes, she saw a familiarity that pierced her to the core. "Ethan Hawthorne?" Serena couldn't believe her eyes. The next second, she lost control, clinging to the man in front of her. "Is it you? Is it really you?" Though a part of her knew it couldn't possibly be the man from her memories, her heart hammered against her ribs. She missed him so much, the only beautiful thing in her life. The man showed no surprise. He simply held her and whispered, "It's me." Those two simple words were all it took for Serena to break down completely, sobbing into his chest. "Ethan, do you have any idea how much I've missed you? Do you know how hard it's been since you left? Do you know I was supposed to get married, but he didn't want me? I don't know what I did wrong." She collapsed into Ethan Hawthorne's arms, her words tumbling out in a torrent of grief, the alcohol stripping away all her inhibitions. "Is it because I'm defective? Is that a crime so terrible I deserve to die for it?" Her tears soaked the collar of his shirt. She felt him gently patting her back, his voice a low murmur in her ear. "No, you're not defective. They were wrong about you." What did you say?" Serena looked up in disbelief and saw a faint smile on his thin lips. "I said you're not truly defective." The man leaned in, his voice a seductive whisper. "Do you need me to prove it to you?" That night, Serena didn't go back to her relative's house. She went to a hotel with Ethan Hawthorne. Going to a hotel with a man after getting drunk was something the old Serena would never have even dreamed of. But she did it. In the darkness, she lay on the soft hotel bed, feeling Ethan's body heat, her entire body trembling. "Don't be afraid." As if sensing her fear, Ethan gently kissed her forehead. "I told you, you're not defective. It's just a little more difficult for you than for other women. I have a way. Don't worry." That night was the most painful of Serena's life. It was also the happiest. She had finally proven that she could be like any other woman, that she could blossom in a man's arms. When Serena woke up, it was already the next morning. She opened her eyes to the luxurious hotel room and stared blankly for a long moment, until the soreness in her body brought back the memories of the previous night in a flood. Shame washed over her, and she buried her head in the quilt. She had slept with a stranger. What had she done? Serena grabbed her clothes from the side, desperate to escape, but just then, "Serena, you're finally awake." A low, masculine voice sounded beside her. Serena froze as if struck by lightning. That voice, how could it be? She turned her head stiffly and finally saw the man standing at the bathroom door. A body as solid as marble, damp hair not yet dry, and the face that had haunted her dreams for 3 long years. "Ethan Hawthorne," Serena cried out, "what are you doing here? Weren't you supposed to be overseas?" Before she could finish her frantic question, the man lunged forward, grabbing her chin in a cruel grip. "What am I doing here?" he sneered, his dark eyes glinting with a cold light. "Serena, have you forgotten who was clinging to me for dear life yesterday?" The last bit of color drained from Serena's face. The hazy memories of last night rushed back, and she finally understood the man she had slept with wasn't a stranger at all. It was her first love, the unforgettable pain of her life. "What, you remember now?" Ethan's sneer widened as he looked at Serena's pale face. "Then again, even if you forgot me, I'm sure you haven't forgotten the $150,000 my mother gave you." The memory of that day stoked the fire in Ethan's eyes. 3 years ago, he and Serena were in love. He had loved this simple girl deeply, convinced that she loved him for who he was, not for his family, not for his money. But reality had slapped him hard across the face. Serena had taken the money from his mother and broken up with him without a second thought. To this day, Ethan couldn't forget that rainy afternoon. He had waited for 5 hours under the eaves of her dorm building before that cold-hearted woman finally came downstairs. "Give it up." Ethan could still clearly recall the icy expression on Serena's face, her merciless words. "Ethan, I was only ever interested in your money. Now that your mother has given it to me, I don't need you anymore." With that one sentence, all their sweet memories had turned into a bitter joke. Even thinking about it 3 years later, the pain still felt like a knife twisting in his heart. His grip on her chin tightened unconsciously, as if he meant to crush her jaw. "How ironic, though," Ethan sneered, his voice laced with cruelty. "Serena, you took all that money from my mother, only to end up getting dumped by some fool from a backwater town?" Serena's pupils constricted violently. She had no idea how to face the coldness in his eyes. She could only lower her head, forcing the words out of her throat. "It's none of your business." Those few words only fueled Ethan's rage. "None of my business?" He laughed, a humorless, angry sound, and pinned her against the wall. "Last night when you were begging me to take you, you didn't say it was none of my business. Or perhaps—" a mocking, indulgent look crept into Ethan's smile. "I didn't satisfy you yesterday. You want to go again?" The man's taunts stripped the last trace of color from Serena's face. She couldn't bear such humiliation, but it was clear the man before her had no intention of letting her go easily. Unless, Serena's eyes flickered. She bit her lip, and as if she'd finally made a decision, she jerked her head up. In an instant, her pale face was painted with an overtly seductive smile. "We can go again, but this time it won't be free." Serena's eyes were sultry. "The great Mr. Hawthorne, heir to the Hawthorne fortune, surely you can't expect a free lunch twice, can you?" As Serena spoke, her fingers grazed his chest, but before they could trail down to his waist, her wrist was seized in a vise-like grip. "Serena," fire practically shot from Ethan's eyes. "What do you mean by that? Isn't it obvious?" Serena's smile grew wider. "I mean you have to pay." With that, she held out her pale, open hand. The fury in Ethan's eyes exploded. "Serena, do you love money that much you'd even put a price on your own body?" Deep within Serena's eyes, an imperceptible tremor passed, but it was gone in a second, replaced by a more flirtatious, wanton smile. "That's right, I love money," she chuckled. "You knew that 3 years ago, didn't you?" Ethan's face froze. A second later, he looked down and let out a self-deprecating laugh. "That's right, Ethan. Didn't you see this woman's true colors 3 years ago? What fantasies are you still clinging to?" At that thought, he felt disgusted by the very idea of touching her. He shoved her away violently. "Get out, I don't want to see you." Serena was thrown to the cold, hard floor. The marble was freezing, but her heart was colder still. She knew that her words would only make Ethan despise her more. But it was the only way. Only by making him hate her would he let her leave. With that thought, Serena swallowed all the pain in her heart, struggled to her feet, put on her clothes, and left. The results from Serena's hospital tests came back soon, but Serena already knew the answer. She wasn't truly defective, just different. When she got home, her mother, Helen, saw the report and cried with joy. "This is wonderful," her mother gripped her hand tightly. "Since you're not defective, there's still hope for you and Gideon." Serena snatched her hand back as if she'd been electrocuted. "Mom, what are you talking about? The engagement with Gideon was called off, wasn't it?" But that was all a misunderstanding now, that the misunderstanding is cleared up. "Of course you should still marry him." "No, Mom, I don't want to marry him." "Do you have any idea what you're saying?" Her mother's face went white with panic, as if Serena had said something blasphemous. "Everyone knows you were engaged to Gideon. If you don't marry him, who will you marry?" "But—" "No, but," her mother clutched Serena's hand, tears streaming down her thin face. "Serena, you know that seeing you get married is my greatest wish in life. You wouldn't want to be so ungrateful, would you?" The weight of that accusation crushed Serena, and the refusal on the tip of her tongue died. She looked down, her voice a low, submissive whisper. "Okay, Mom, I promise, I'll marry him." Serena didn't know what her mother had done to convince the Cole family to agree to the wedding again. All she knew was that watching her parents grovel before them filled her with a profound unease. But she couldn't say a word. The wedding was a simple affair, just a few tables at a local restaurant. There wasn't even a makeup artist. Serena rented the cheapest dress she could find and did her own makeup in the hotel's dressing room. The lipstick covered her pale, drawn face, and the foundation hid the dark circles under her eyes. Serena looked at her brightly made-up reflection in the mirror and laughed a bitter, mocking laugh. A wedding was supposed to be the happiest day of a woman's life, yet all she felt was a deep, desolate sorrow. As she twisted her hair into a simple bun, she heard the door behind her open. Assuming it was her mother coming to hurry her along, she quickened her pace. "Mom, I'm almost ready. I'll be right Before Serena could finish, a powerful force grabbed her from behind, slamming her against the dressing room mirror. Serena looked up and saw Ethan's handsome, furious face. "Ethan Hawthorne?" Panic seized her. "What are you doing here?" "Why am I here?" Ethan sneered. "To see what kind of man you picked after all that searching, of course." His eyes fell to the cheap wedding dress she was wearing, and the sarcasm in his voice deepened. "Serena, you're pathetic. You throw away the heir to the Hawthorne fortune for some bum from a backwater town? What kind of man I marry is none of your business." Serena struggled to fight back, but her resistance only enraged Ethan further. "None of my business," he laughed, a cold, furious sound. "Fine. Let's see if it's none of my business or not. What are you doing?" Before her panicked question could escape her lips, her wedding dress was ripped from her body. The next second, the man's scent descended upon her. "No," Serena cried, pinned against the mirror, struggling. "Ethan, this is my wedding day. How could you? Why wouldn't I?" Ethan sneered. "My mother gave you all that money. What's wrong with me having a little fun with you?" The humiliating words made tears stream down Serena's face. She knew she couldn't fight back. She could only bite her lip and endure. But just then, Serena should be about done with her makeup. "Gideon, let's go get her." Her mother's placating voice came from outside the door. The blood drained from Serena's face. "Ethan, let me go," she fought back in a panicked whisper, not daring to raise her voice. "My mother and Gideon are here, let me go." Her terrified expression only fueled Ethan's fury. She was that afraid of that man seeing them. The thought sent a beast roaring through his chest. He pressed her harder against the mirror and sneered. "Serena, if your fiancé saw you like this, do you think he'd still be willing to marry you?" The last trace of color vanished from Serena's face. She realized what he was about to do, her voice trembling with fear. "Don't, Ethan, I'm begging you, please don't." She began to struggle violently, but Ethan only held her tighter. At the same time, she clearly heard Gideon's impatient voice from outside. "This is the room, right? Let's hurry it up. It's just a wedding, what's taking her so long?" As he spoke, Serena saw the doorknob begin to turn. "No, don't." Serena squeezed her eyes shut, unable to face what was about to happen. But the chaos she expected never came. Instead, she heard Gideon's angry voice from the hallway. "What the hell? Why is this stupid door locked?" "Serena, are you in there?" Serena blinked, opening her eyes. She noticed the dressing room door had been locked from the inside. Gideon and her mother couldn't get in. Outside, Gideon was still cursing. "Serena, are you in there? Or not open this door right now?" His shouts were followed by her mother's timid voice. "Gideon, maybe Serena already finished and went out. That's probably why the hotel locked the room. Let's go check the banquet hall." "Troublesome woman. Never says a word, acts like she's dead," Gideon grumbled, and his footsteps faded away. Hearing them leave, the tension in Serena's body finally eased. But before she could take a full breath, Ethan's cold voice sounded from above her. "Serena, you care that much about that man?" Serena froze. She looked up and met Ethan's icy, dark eyes. It wasn't the anger from before, but a chilling, detached disappointment that was colder than ice. For some reason, seeing that look in his eyes hurt more than any of his insults, a sharp pang in her heart. She lowered her head, unable to meet his gaze, and whispered, "He's the man I'm going to marry." "Ha!" Ethan let out a self-mocking laugh. Suddenly losing interest, he released her and turned to leave. But just as he opened the dressing room door, a petite figure in a pink and white dress threw herself into his arms. "Ethan, I finally found you." A stunningly beautiful young woman appeared out of nowhere, snuggling against his chest and smiling sweetly up at him. "I didn't believe it when your assistant said you were on a business trip in this little town. I came to surprise you, and I can't believe you're really here. Isabella?" Ethan was taken aback by the girl's sudden appearance. But before he could react, Isabella Vance had already spotted the disheveled Serena behind him. The smile on Isabella's face froze. The next second, she shrieked. "What is going on here?" she cried, beating on Ethan's chest. "You're engaged to me, why are you fooling around with another woman?" Seeing a stranger enter, Serena had been frantically trying to fix her clothes, but the words made her movements halt abruptly. Engaged, Ethan Hawthorne was engaged. Isabella was sobbing hysterically. Ethan frowned and caught her hands. "Isabella, let me explain," he said, his tone tinged with exasperation. "She's just a hustler trying to scam some money. She's not worth getting upset over." Serena's face went deathly pale. A hustler trying to scam some money, so that's how Ethan Hawthorne defined her. Hearing Ethan's words, Isabella abruptly stopped crying. "Is it true?" she asked, looking at him with tear-filled eyes. "This woman is really just a gold digger. You have nothing to do with her." "Of course not. My heart belongs only to you." Isabella's tears turned to a smile. Only then did she turn her gaze to the pathetic figure of Serena, who had collapsed on the floor. "Ethan, wait a second." She walked over to Serena, her high heels clicking on the floor. Serena instinctively tried to back away, thinking she was about to be attacked, but Isabella simply pulled a checkbook from her designer handbag. "It can't be easy for you, trying to hustle for money on your own wedding day," Isabella said with a voice full of pity. Her hand, adorned with crystal nails, deftly wrote a number on the check. She then casually tossed it at Serena's face, her smile sweet and captivating. "Here, take this, for your trouble." The white check fluttered down and landed on Serena's face like a vicious slap, making her cheek burn with shame. She wanted to scream, to tear the check to shreds, but when her eyes caught Ethan's gaze from the side, she forced herself to endure it. She looked at Isabella, the perfect makeup, the meticulously styled hair, the designer dress and bag. Everything about her screamed of the privilege and delicacy of a wealthy heiress. It was a stark contrast to Serena in her cheap wedding dress. This was the kind of woman Ethan Hawthorne was supposed to marry. Well-matched, clean, and noble. At that thought, she lowered her head with a bitter smile and clutched Isabella's check in her hand. "Thank you, miss." The moment Serena took the check, Ethan, standing nearby, clenched his fists so hard his knuckles cracked. She actually took it. Does she really think of herself as a prostitute? Isabella, he was so enraged he couldn't even bear to look at the disgusting woman for another second. He just growled, "Let's go, this place is filthy." Without waiting for Isabella to reply, he spun around and stormed out. "Ethan, wait for me." Isabella quickly chased after him, and soon the empty dressing room was left with only Serena. Serena lowered her head and slowly tore the check in her hands to pieces, silent tears falling onto the scraps. 3 years ago, she and Ethan had fallen in love in college. She never understood why the heir of a top-tier family would fall for someone as ordinary as her. But those years in college were the happiest of her life. She thought they would never be separated, but during her senior year, her mother was diagnosed with late-stage leukemia and needed an astronomical amount for surgery. Her humble family couldn't possibly afford it. At her lowest point, Ethan's mother, Matilda, had approached her. "Break up with Ethan, and I'll pay for your mother's medical bills." Serena had no other choice. She took the $150,000 check. She never told Ethan the real reason she took the money. She knew the only way to make him give up on her completely was to paint herself as a vain, money-grubbing woman. Her plan worked. Ethan believed she had abandoned their love for money and left the country in a rage to study abroad. After graduation, Serena returned to her small hometown to better care for her mother after the surgery. She thought she would never see Ethan Hawthorne again, but somehow they had met once more. But this had to be the end. After everything that had happened today, Ethan must be utterly disgusted with her. He would never want to touch her again. And that's a good thing, Serena told herself over and over, but the tears just wouldn't stop. She struggled to pull herself together to fix her disheveled appearance, but just then, wait, I think Serena's in the dressing room. Look. Serena's body went rigid. She scrambled to hide, but it was too late. The ajar door was thrown open, and a crowd of people stormed in. "Serena, where have you been?" Her mother was at the front, her face a mask of displeasure as she bustled over, nagging. "Do you have any idea it's almost time for the reception? Everyone's been looking for you. How could you?" Her mother's complaints died in her throat. She saw Serena, her wedding dress torn to shreds, her fair skin covered in red marks. It was obvious to anyone what had just happened. "Serena, you..." Her mother stood there, utterly dumbfounded, but Gideon, who was behind her, reacted much faster. "Serena, you bastard!" Gideon rushed forward, his eyes bloodshot, and without another word, slapped her hard across the face. "Cheating on me on our wedding day, do you have a death wish?" Gideon's blow was merciless. Serena fell to the ground, her ears ringing. She struggled to get up, to explain. "It's not like that, Gideon, listen to me, But before she could finish, Gideon's mother, Martha, rushed forward, grabbing a handful of Serena's hair and screaming abuse. "Serena, you trollop, you were the one who shamelessly insisted on marrying our Gideon. and it turns out you're just second-hand goods, you think you can marry into our family looking like this. In your dreams, Gideon's father joined in, cursing. Exactly a liability, and she dares to cheat on us behind our backs, let me tell you. This wedding is off, and I'm going to tell everyone that your daughter is a shameless town bike. With that, the three Coles turned to leave. Helen Morgan, finally snapping out of her shock, rushed to stop them. Please don't, she fell to her knees with a thud, her cries heart-wrenching. Please don't call off the wedding, and please, I beg you, don't tell anyone about our Serena. She must have been forced. She's not that kind of girl. Then, Helen grabbed Serena, trying to force her to kneel as well. Serena, what are you standing there for? Beg Gideon to marry you, beg him. She tried to force Serena's head to the ground, but Serena finally came to her senses and fought back frantically. No, I won't beg, Mom. I did nothing wrong. I won't kneel and beg them. Hearing Serena's defiance, the Coles laughed in fury. You hear that? Your daughter doesn't even think she did anything wrong. She's just rotten to the core. There's no curing her, let me tell you. This isn't over if we don't ruin your daughter's reputation. Our family name isn't Cole. With that, the three of them stormed off, leaving Helen Morgan to collapse onto the floor in despair. Serena couldn't bear to see her mother like that and went to help her up. Mom, the floor is cold and you're not well. Get up, please don't. Before Serena could finish, her mother snapped back to reality, looked up, and slapped her across the face. You ungrateful daughter, Helen shrieked through her tears. You know I'm only hanging on to see you get married and have children. Why would you destroy my only hope? Serena's face went white. It was true. After her surgery, her mother was convinced she didn't have long to live, so her only wish was to see Serena settled down. It was because she understood this wish that Serena had agreed to the arranged marriage with Gideon in the first place. Mom, don't think like that. You're still strong, you can definitely. Strong. What good is strong? Helen's shriek cut off Serena's comforting words. You're second-hand goods now. No one will ever want you. You want me to wait. How long can I wait you? You. Before she could finish her frantic tirade, Helen's eyes rolled back in her head, and she fainted. Mom, Serena, rushed her mother to the hospital. The doctor's diagnosis came quickly. The emotional distress had caused a severe relapse. Helen needed another bone marrow transplant immediately. Then do the surgery, Serena told the doctor, her voice shaking. I still have $75,000. I can donate my bone marrow to my mom, too. I did it 3 years ago. I'm a perfect match. The $150,000 Matilda had given her had only been half used for the first surgery. Serena had secretly saved the rest for an emergency. We can perform the surgery, but the problem is, the doctor hesitated, looking at Serena. Miss Morgan, your own health hasn't been great. You already donated a significant amount of bone marrow 3 years ago. If you donate again, we can't be sure it won't be dangerous for your body. It doesn't matter. Serena's face was pale, but her eyes were filled with determination. As long as it can save my mother, I'll do anything. Because of the urgency of her mother's condition, the surgery was scheduled hastily. Before entering the operating room, Serena hesitated, then picked up her phone and dialed Ethan Hawthorne's number. She didn't know why, but even though it was a standard marrow extraction, a sense of panic fluttered in her chest. The phone rang and rang, but no one answered. Serena's heart sank. Just as she was about to give up, Ethan's cold voice suddenly came through the line. Serena, what do you want now? Serena's hand unconsciously tightened on the fabric of her skirt. She tried to keep her voice steady. It's nothing. I just wanted to hear your voice. There was a moment of silence, then she heard a short, cold laugh from Ethan. Serena, are you short on money again? Serena froze, then managed a bitter smile. No, I really just wanted to hear your voice. Ha! Ethan's voice on the other end was even more mocking. Fine, I'll let you hear it. Serena, you're a trollop. Serena, you make me sick. Serena, you're the most shameless woman I've ever met. So, are you satisfied now? Serena's eyes welled with tears, but she choked back a sob and continued, satisfied. Keep going. Serena, the biggest regret of my life is ever dating you. I regret being so blind that I fell for a vain, gold-digging slut like you. Ethan's words were like daggers, stabbing into Serena's heart one by one. She choked back a sob, about to speak, but just then beep, beep, beep. The line went dead. Serena stared at her phone, realizing the battery had died. Before she could react, a young nurse came over to get her. Miss Morgan, the surgery is ready. You can go in now. Okay, I understand. Serena wiped away her tears, took a deep breath, and walked towards the operating room. Inside, she and her mother lay on separate beds. Serena turned to look at her mother's pale, haggard face, her eyes turning red. Mom, she whispered, reaching for her mother's hand. I'll save you this time, too, just like 3 years ago. The anesthesia began to take effect, and Serena slowly closed her eyes. What she didn't know was that just outside, at the end of the hospital corridor, Isabella Vance was standing with her arms crossed, looking coldly at Serena's doctor. Do you understand my instructions? I want this woman dead. There can be no mistakes. Meanwhile, at the airport, Ethan Hawthorne stared coldly at the documents in his hand. His assistant approached, bowing respectfully. Mr. Hawthorne, you asked us to investigate what Miss Morgan did with the $150,000 3 years ago. We have the results. Ethan paused. He remembered that after returning to the country, he had looked into Serena's situation. Finding out she had just gone back to her small hometown, he found it strange and had his assistant investigate where the money went. The investigation had taken some time, and the results were only just coming in. Ethan thought of Serena in the hotel, of how she'd taken Isabella's check. A mocking smile touched his lips. The results of this investigation didn't seem so important anymore. Don't tell me, he said with a cold laugh. I'm sure she didn't use it for anything meaningful, probably just blew it all on vanities. No, sir. To Ethan's surprise, the assistant's expression was complicated. Miss Morgan didn't spend the money on herself. She gave it to the hospital. The hospital. Ethan was stunned. Before he could process it, his phone rang. He looked down and saw Serena's name on the caller ID. A flash of intense irritation crossed his face. Serena, he answered coldly. I told you I don't want to hear your voice. But the voice on the other end wasn't Serena's. It was a stranger's, frantic and panicked. Excuse me, do you know a Miss Serena Morgan? She suffered a massive hemorrhage while donating bone marrow to her mother at our hospital. She's passed away from blood loss. Ethan's body went rigid, his fingertips trembling. It wasn't until the nurse's urgent voice came through again that he slowly processed the words, his own voice shaking as he sought confirmation. Did you call the wrong number? How could Serena be dead? Sir, the last call on Miss Morgan's phone was to your number. The hospital confirmed it before calling you. Miss Morgan's mother is currently in a coma. We need you to come down and sign the papers. The nurse hung up before Ethan could even react. He stood there, stunned, and turned to his assistant in disbelief. Serena is dead? Seeing his boss's expression, the assistant knew something was terribly wrong. He immediately got the car, and they sped towards the hospital. Doctor, you must be mistaken. Serena was fine just a few days ago. How could this have happened? Ethan rushed into the hospital and grabbed the first doctor he saw by the collar, his voice laced with panic. The doctor was startled, but the man grabbing him was impeccably dressed and clearly not someone to be trifled with. He could only explain meekly, Sir, we did everything we could. Please accept our condolences. Don't be too distraught. Ethan tightened his grip on the doctor's collar, his voice choked with rage. Tell me, where is she? I want to see her. The doctor, his face a mask of misery, handed Ethan a death certificate. Sir, if you don't believe me, the hospital's official death certificate is proof. We can't bring back the dead. You have to accept this. Ethan froze, snatching the thin piece of paper. His eyes fixed on the name at the top, Serena Morgan. An image of her frail, thin frame from a few days ago flashed through his mind, and a dense, sharp pain bloomed in his chest. Mr. Hawthorne, let me take that for you, the assistant said cautiously, but Ethan didn't react. He fell silent, as if he wasn't the same man who had been shouting in the hospital lobby just moments ago. No need. When Ethan looked up again, his face was a mask of calm. He looked coldly at the doctor. How did Serena die? The doctor sighed and explained, Sir, Miss Morgan's vitals were already low, but she insisted on the surgery. Unfortunately, her mother's condition worsened, and she went into the operating room without our final clearance. She didn't make it. The doctor's voice trailed off. Ethan's posture stiffened. Surgery? What surgery? A bone marrow transplant. Didn't you know, Mr. Hawthorne? Miss Morgan's mother has been receiving treatment at our hospital for years. Miss Morgan was a perfect match, and she donated the marrow for all the major surgeries. That's enough. You don't need to say any more. Ethan cut him off, his face a cold, emotionless mask. Only the death certificate, crumpled in his hand, betrayed the turmoil within. I don't care if she's dead or alive, I want to see her now. Ethan clutched the paper, his voice a low, fierce growl. The doctor didn't dare to delay and led them down to the morgue on the second basement level. A cold draft snaked through the empty corridor. The fluorescent lights cast a ghastly white pallor on the doctor's face. He shivered and pointed to an empty refrigerated drawer. Sir, it seems Miss Morgan's body has been claimed by her family. Family? Besides me, what other family does she have? Ethan froze, his gaze turning glacial. Sir, may I ask what your relationship is to Miss Morgan? The doctor, finally asking the obvious question, frowned. The question stumped Ethan. He froze, opening his mouth to answer, but found he couldn't. He was no one to Serena. Now that she was dead, he didn't even have the right to claim her body. You're right. I'm no one to her, Ethan whispered, turning and walking out of the hospital. Mr. Hawthorne, should I arrange for someone to investigate Miss Morgan's? The assistant paused, watching Ethan carefully. Ethan pinched the bridge of his nose. His mind was filled with images of Serena. He still couldn't fully believe she was gone. He took a deep breath, as if remembering something. You said you found out where that $150,000 went years ago? The assistant nodded quickly. 3 years ago, Miss Morgan took the money and went back to her hometown. All of it was used for her mother's medical expenses, and the other sums she asked for later? Ethan's voice was hoarse, laced with a desperate struggle. The assistant kept his head bowed, not daring to look at his boss's face, and stammered, Mr. Hawthorne, every single penny after that was also used for surgeries. Silence. A long, heavy silence. The assistant cautiously looked up. Mr. Hawthorne, are you all right? The man, who had been as still as a statue, finally moved. He slowly pulled the crumpled death certificate from his pocket. So, after all these years of entanglement and struggle, it was all just a misunderstanding between us. All these years, he had misunderstood her. There was no betrayal. He had been drowning in the bliss of his own love story, completely oblivious to Serena's suffering. Ethan closed his eyes in agony, his eyelids trembling with moisture. When he spoke again, his voice was choked with a sob. He called his assistant's name, clutching the paper as if it could somehow hold onto something tangible. When she saw me on her wedding day, was she happy? Ethan asked, his voice racked with pain. The assistant sat tensely in the driver's seat, sweat beading on his palms. This wasn't the first time he had seen Mr. Hawthorne like this. He vividly remembered a rainy night 3 years ago, when the pride of the Hawthorne family, the most promising heir in the business world, sat dejectedly outside a bar. Both times, it was because of Miss Morgan. Mr. Hawthorne, I've been by your side for so many years. I've witnessed your entire journey with Miss Morgan. I can say with certainty that she was never a vain or greedy person. The assistant sighed. He glanced in the rearview mirror and saw the man had gone quiet, staring blankly ahead. After a long pause, a sound that was half laugh, half sob escaped Ethan's lips. You're right, I didn't believe in her. I condemned her without knowing the facts. I claimed to love her, yet I hurt and humiliated her time and time again. Ethan could no longer hold it in and let out a broken, guttural cry. Regret and self-loathing crashed over him like a tsunami. If only he had known the truth sooner. If, when he met Serena again, he had held back those sharp, cruel words. If, when Serena made that last phone call, he had rushed to her side. Would Serena still be alive? Would he not have lost her? Ethan, look at this, isn't it cute? A girl's cool fingers touched his wrist, fastening a pink bracelet around it. Ethan's eyes flew open, but he couldn't make out the girl's face. He only knew that he loved her immensely. Ethan, you don't like it. Seeing his silence, the girl pouted, her voice filled with hurt. Of course I like it, I like anything you give me. Ethan's heart clenched. He wanted to explain, but before he could speak, the girl let go of his arm and ran away, crying. Ethan, why don't you believe me? The girl appeared behind him. She seemed older now, her eyes wide and watery like a lost fawn in the forest. Pain twisted in Ethan's heart. He reached out to wipe away her tears, but his hand seemed to move on its own, striking her hard across the face. He heard himself roaring, Why did you betray me? No, I'll believe anything you say. I won't hit you, come here. Ethan watched the girl clutch her face, silent tears falling to the ground, and his heart shattered. Ethan, I want to hear your voice. The girl was holding a phone now, her face pale, as if she could fall asleep at any moment. "Fine, I'll let you hear it. You're just a vain, gold-digging woman. I never loved you, have you heard enough?" Ethan opened his mouth, then closed it in despair. The words, sharp as knives, fell from his lips, leaving wounds on the girl without restraint. The familiarity of it all filled him with a dizzying panic. The girl shed 2 more tears, a bitter smile playing on her lips. As the tears washed over her face, her features seemed to become clearer. She wiped her eyes and gave him a bright, clear smile. "Goodbye, Ethan Hawthorne. I hope I never see you again in the next life." With those words, her body began to fade. No, Ethan lunged forward, trying to grab her, but an invisible wall stood between them. He could only watch helplessly as she disappeared. "Serena, Serena, I was wrong, don't leave me." He saw her clearly now. He remembered. "Serena," Ethan woke with a start, a thin layer of cold sweat on his back. He looked down blankly at the crumpled sheets in his hand, then suddenly shot up, rushed downstairs, and pulled yesterday's suit from the laundry basket. Dark blue suit, left pocket. Ethan's expression froze. The last glimmer of light in his eyes vanished. He numbly pulled the paper from his pocket. The death certificate he had brought back from the hospital. It wasn't a dream. Serena was dead, truly dead. He had lost her forever. His phone vibrated. It was his assistant. Ethan glanced at the time, 5:43 a.m. "Mr. Hawthorne, the cemetery is ready. You mentioned yesterday that you wanted to leave early. I'm on my way now." "I know." His fingers tightened, his nails digging into the edge of the phone. Ethan answered flatly and hung up. The assistant arrived shortly. By then, Ethan had washed up and changed into a low-key suit. The assistant waited at the door, momentarily stunned when he saw him, then hurried to his side. "Mr. Hawthorne, the funeral is ready. Mrs. Morgan has been brought over as well." Ethan didn't pause. His expression was as cold as ever. He nodded and got into the back of the car. Because of the suddenness of it all, the funeral was simple, with only a handful of people in attendance. The moment he got out of the car, Ethan saw Helen Morgan standing weakly in front of a tombstone. He hesitated, then walked towards her. "Mrs. Morgan?" Helen looked up at the sound of his voice. Her eyes widened when she saw it was Ethan, and she staggered back a few steps. "You? How dare you come here? Serena doesn't want to see you." Ethan's lips thinned, but he said nothing, reaching out to steady her. She slapped his hand away. "Just go, Serena doesn't want to see you," Helen screamed, her voice filled with hatred. She knew about the phone call Serena had made on the day of the surgery. She knew how Serena felt about Ethan, and she knew the sacrifices Serena had made for her family. "This is all my fault. I shouldn't have pushed her if I hadn't. She wouldn't have met you again if she hadn't met you. This wouldn't have happened. It's all because of you, all because of you." Helen crumpled to the ground, her body stooped. But even then, she refused to let Ethan touch her. "Help Mrs. Morgan up," Ethan instructed his assistant, his heart feeling as if it were dripping blood. He had her taken away. Helen's every word was a poison needle in his heart, the venom spreading, the pain unbearable. The past flashed before his eyes, every small moment with Serena now crystal clear, playing frame by frame in his mind. "Mr. Hawthorne, Mrs. Hawthorne was too agitated and has been taken to rest. Would you like to rest as well?" the assistant asked cautiously upon his return. Ethan shook his head and looked at the few other people at the funeral. "Don't worry about me. Just take care of the other guests." There were very few people, you could count them on one hand. Ethan stood expressionlessly in a corner, his mind a chaotic sea. He had thought Serena was just a vain, money-grubbing woman. He had used that fact to console himself, to numb himself, but he had never been willing to seek the truth. Just like now, he had thought many people would come, that many people loved Serena, cared for her, would weep for her passing. But there weren't. Not that many people loved Serena. The funeral was simple and ended quickly. It was just after 7 when Ethan returned to his villa. He had bought this house in the city on a whim. His assistant had thought he was crazy, but only Ethan knew it wasn't a sudden decision. He pretended not to care about news of Serena, but secretly, he had been gathering information. When he heard she was in this city, he hadn't hesitated to buy the villa at a high price. His sudden business trip here was also a deliberate act. Ethan threw himself onto the sofa, a mocking smile on his lips. He had spent so much time finding her, only to personally push her to her death, saying such venomous things to her over the phone. I can't believe it, so young. I heard that during the resuscitation attempt, she didn't have a strong will to live. How hopeless must that girl have been? He remembered the words of a man at the funeral, shaking his head in regret. Ethan recognized him as the owner of the copy shop near Serena's old apartment. Yes, how hopeless must Serena have been? How much did she want to escape this cold world? And he, Ethan Hawthorne, had personally broken the last straw. The villa was empty and cold, the heating off. It felt several degrees colder than outside, but Ethan didn't feel it. He lay on the sofa for over an hour. It wasn't until the front door opened that he was jolted back to some semblance of awareness. "Ethan, why are you sleeping here without the heat on? You'll get sick." Isabella Vance rushed in, crying out in alarm when she saw him. Ethan merely glanced at her, his tone frigid. "Where did you get a key?" Isabella's hand, which was pouring a glass of water, paused. She looked down and explained, "Your mother was worried you hadn't been home in so long. She asked me to come check on you." "My mother knows I'm here." Ethan's gaze swept over Isabella, his eyes coated in a layer of ice. Isabella's shoulders slumped. "Ethan, I haven't been able to see you for days. Your mother was just worried because you've been on this business trip for so long. She thought something might be wrong. She doesn't know you're still here." Ethan nodded, the tension in his brow finally easing slightly. He spoke in a hoarse voice, "I might need to stay here for a while longer. You should go back first. Don't tell Mom about this yet. If she asks, just say there are follow-up matters to handle here, and I stayed to oversee them." Isabella was stunned, then bit her lip, asking resentfully, "Ethan, is this because of that woman we saw in the hotel? You don't need to know that much." Ethan frowned, a flicker of anger in his eyes, but he held it back, simply too tired to argue. "Ethan, I'm your fiancé. Your mother said we should set a date for the wedding soon." Isabella pressed on, ignoring the look on his face, almost forcing him to meet her gaze. "Go back first. We'll talk about the wedding later." Ethan didn't even look at her, getting up and loosening his collar. "I'm tired, you should go." He walked towards the bedroom, stopping at the door. He turned, frowning, and leave the key. Isabella was trembling with rage. How could Ethan do this? That woman was dead. So why was he still acting like he couldn't live without her? She wouldn't stand for it, her looks. Her family background, what part of her wasn't good enough for Ethan? What did she lack that Serena had? Why did she have to suffer this humiliation? She turned and glared venomously at his back, shouting, "Ethan Hawthorne, are you still thinking about Serena? Do you not want to marry me anymore?" Ethan stopped and turned, his voice cold. "Isabella, I don't want to fight with you today. I will give you a clear explanation about us. But for now, please go back." Isabella bit her lip, her voice filled with indignation. "We have an engagement. The person you're going to marry is me. You have to be responsible for me." Ethan's gaze sharpened instantly. He strode past her to the door. "I don't want to discuss this right now. If you're not leaving, then I will." He threw the words over his shoulder and shut the door behind him. Isabella stared at the closed door, trembling with rage. Why, after everything she had done, was she still losing to a dead woman? No, she couldn't let Ethan stay here. She couldn't let him find out that Serena's death was her doing. Isabella looked down, her fingers dialing a number on her phone, her eyes growing more vicious by the second. By the time Ethan reached the basement and got into his car, the answer was already clear in his mind. He had never intended to marry Isabella. He had only ever had one woman in his life, Serena. From the moment he met her, all his joys and sorrows were tied to her. Ethan leaned back in his seat, closing his tired eyes. A moment later, he got out of the car and took the elevator back up to the villa. Isabella was a good woman. She had been by his side for years, and he was willing to cherish her like a sister. But now that he saw his feelings for Serena clearly, he could never marry anyone else. He wanted to explain things to Isabella properly, to minimize the hurt. He reached the door. It was ajar. He could faintly hear a voice inside, and it seemed he heard Serena's name. Puzzled, he slowed his steps and approached the door, and the voice became clearer. "You don't need me to tell you what the Vance family is capable of. No one else can know about the switched medication. As long as you keep your mouth shut and take this secret to your grave, you'll be set for life," Isabella threatened into the phone. "But if you let even a whisper of this get out, I'll make sure you regret it." "And Serena's body, has it been dealt with?" Isabella asked, as if just remembering. "Get rid of it. We can't let the Hawthorns find out." Ethan stood outside the door, listening, a chill spreading down his back. So Serena's death wasn't an accident. She was murdered by Isabella. The door was thrown open. Isabella jumped, and the phone fell from her hand when she saw Ethan standing there. "Ethan, why are you back?" Ethan sneered. "If I hadn't come back, how long were you planning to deceive me?" Isabella's face paled, and she scrambled to explain. "Ethan, listen to me, it's not what you think." "I didn't mean to." Ethan lost all control, grabbing Isabella by the collar. "Why did you kill Serena?" "Ethan, I didn't mean to. It was all a misunderstanding." Isabella tried to lie, but Ethan's hand clamped around her neck. "What do you take me for? How dare you pull something like this right under my nose? I heard everything from outside the door. You had the nurse switch the IV fluid. That's why Serena bled out and died during surgery." Isabella froze. Seeing that she could no longer hide it, she let out a cold laugh. "Ethan Hawthorne, you care that much about that slut Serena? Even if you know I had the medicine switched, where's your proof? She's already dead. What can you do to me?" Ethan's grip tightened. "Isabella Vance, what kind of person do you think I am? Even if I can't find the proof now, I will one day. And when I do, I'll make you pay for Serena's life." Isabella stared at him, then burst out laughing. "Ethan Hawthorne, what's with the tragic hero act now? Weren't you the one who wished Serena would disappear from the face of the earth? Weren't you the one who called her second-hand goods? What, now that I've taken care of that eyesore for you, you're feeling sentimental?" Isabella's words were like a volley of sharp blades, piercing him, making it hard to breathe. "I deserve to die, you're right. I'm the one who wronged her the most." Ethan gave a bitter laugh, his grip tightening again. Isabella gasped for air, her face turning purple. "You cough, let me go," she struggled desperately. But Ethan was unmoved. "Did you think you could get away? I'll make you feel every bit of pain Serena went through." A single lamp lit the dim room. A woman lay on the soft bed, half of her delicate, pale face visible. A few simple medical instruments were placed by the bed, their screens displaying her vital signs. "It's been over a week. Why isn't she awake yet?" A man with glasses stood by the bed, looking puzzled. Just as he spoke, the woman's fingers twitched. Soon, she began to stir. Where am I?" Serena frowned, her gaze slowly focusing. The man looked at her with pleasant surprise, gently pressing on her shoulder. "You're finally awake." Serena turned her head at the sound of his voice, and her eyes widened in shock. "Dr. Ryan Foster, what are you doing here?" "It's a long story. Just know that I saved you," Ryan Foster said with a sigh. "What happened to me? Wasn't I in surgery? And Mom, how is she?" Serena's head was still spinning. She vaguely remembered this man as her mother's attending physician. The rest was just a jumble of fragmented images. She remembered making one last call to Ethan, hearing those venomous words from his own lips. She remembered finally giving up hope. The memory brought a sharp pang to her heart. What exactly happened? Don't think about it too much right now. Your body hasn't recovered, you can't take any more stress, Ryan said soothingly, handing her a few pills and a glass of warm water. Serena never liked to trouble others. If Ryan didn't want to talk, she wouldn't press him. After taking the medicine, she tried to get out of bed, but Ryan stopped her. "You can't leave." "Why?" Serena asked, confused. "Because you're pregnant," Ryan said after a pause, his eyes flickering as he looked down. Pregnant. A terrible premonition rose in Serena's heart. Ryan explained, "That's right, you're 1 month pregnant." 1 month. That meant it happened on her wedding day. Amidst the shock, a tiny spark of joy ignited in Serena's heart. This was her first child. Her and Ethan's child. "Don't worry, it's only been a month. I know a few friends. I can arrange an abortion for you. No one will ever know," Ryan said quickly, assuming she didn't want the baby. But Serena shook her head. "No, I want to have him. This is my first child." "But," Ryan looked at her, hesitating, "there was a complication during the surgery. You lost a lot of blood and went into a coma. We barely saved you. When I came out of the OR, they had already issued a death certificate. In your condition, carrying this child to term will be very difficult." Serena stood frozen. After a long moment, she lowered her head and asked softly, "Does Ethan know about this?" Ryan paused. "Your funeral was held yesterday in the suburbs. Ethan didn't come." Serena let out a bitter laugh, a hint of mockery in her eyes. Of course. Ethan despised her so much, he was probably thrilled to hear of her death. Why would he attend her funeral? Seeing Serena's desolate expression, a flicker of guilt crossed Ryan's heart, but it vanished as quickly as it came. He loved Serena. He had loved her since college, and he still loved her deeply. He had watched over her from the sidelines, until one day Ethan Hawthorne appeared and stole her away. All these years, he had silently watched her every move. Now that Serena had finally lost all hope, how could he let her suffer at Ethan's hands again? "Serena, let's start a new life," he said softly, his tone almost pleading. Serena was taken aback, not quite understanding what he meant. Ryan continued, "Your mother's surgery was a success. And I heard Ethan is about to marry that young lady from the Vance family. Just consider the old Serena dead. From now on, you're a new person. The past has nothing to do with you anymore." "A new life?" Serena hesitated. Ryan took her hand, his voice gentle and comforting. "Yes, a new life. From now on, you're no longer Serena Morgan. You can start over." He would give her a new identity, take her far away, away from all the pain. From now on, he would protect her, and they would be together. "Start over," Serena repeated his words. Images of Ethan flashed through her mind, and a sharp pain shot through her. She pressed a hand to her heart. She didn't want to give up this child. If Ethan knew, he probably wouldn't want to keep it either. Maybe forgetting everything and living under a new identity wasn't such a bad idea. At least, it wouldn't hurt so much. Serena stayed in Ryan's house for over a week. He made time to be with her every day, and her belly grew bigger day by day. "Ryan, do you think I can carry this baby to term?" Lying in bed, Serena held a report from a private clinic. The numbers weren't promising. Ryan handed her a glass of warm milk. "Don't worry, I'm a doctor. I'll help you get your body back in shape." Though he spoke with confidence, Ryan was worried. Serena's body had been weakened by repeated surgeries. The fact that she had even kept the baby after losing so much blood was a miracle. He feared complications during childbirth. At that thought, his expression darkened, and he clenched his fists. He would not let anything happen to Serena. "By the way, I saw in the paper yesterday that Ethan has returned to the city, right?" Serena asked casually, an almost imperceptible tension in her voice. Ryan looked down, his eyes flickering. "Yes, he went back with Isabella Vance yesterday. They're probably getting ready for the wedding." Serena's expression dimmed. She unconsciously stroked her belly. "Ryan, on the day of my surgery, did Ethan come?" Ryan froze, then looked up, his guilt palpable. "No, don't overthink things." Serena smiled wanly. "I'm not overthinking. I just wanted to know, after all these years with Ethan, did he ever care about me, even a little? When he heard I died, was he even a little bit sad?" Ryan snorted. "If he were sad, he wouldn't be marrying Isabella Vance." "The old Serena is dead. You shouldn't think about him anymore," Ryan advised. "You're right. The old Serena is dead. There's no point in dwelling on a dead person's past. The future is what matters now," Serena said lightly, turning to smile at Ryan. Ryan finally relaxed and handed Serena a brochure. "This is a top clinic in the UK. Your health is very poor right now, and I'm worried about complications during labor. But you don't have to worry, I'll arrange everything." He paused, then asked cautiously, "Serena, if I said I wanted to take you to the UK for treatment, would you come with me?" Serena was taken aback. She hadn't expected him to say that. Over the past few days, she had sensed his feelings for her, but she had always seen him as a brother. She thought for a moment, then said slowly, "For the baby's sake, I'm willing to go to the UK with you. But Ryan, I don't want to owe you too much. After the baby is born, I'll find a job and pay you back for everything." The light in Ryan's eyes dimmed. He gave a bitter smile. "I'm doing this willingly." "I'm sorry, I'm causing you so much trouble," Serena said guiltily. But Ryan just laughed, his earlier gloominess gone. "I was just joking, why are you so serious? I do have feelings for you, but you don't have to worry about it. If we can't be a couple, we can be friends," Ryan said, rubbing his nose and smiling brightly. "A good friend taking you to the UK for a couple of years, that's normal, right?" Serena looked at his smile, a knot in her stomach, but she couldn't bring herself to refuse him again. So she nodded. "Okay." A few days later, a plane bound for the UK took off. Astoria City, Willow Creek Estate. "Ethan Hawthorne, do you love that woman that much? She's dead, she's never coming back." A woman's shrill screams echoed through the basement. Ethan stood at the entrance, on the dry floor, a long whip in his hand. "She's not coming back, and it's all thanks to you," he said flatly, his voice exceptionally cold. Isabella looked up, disheveled. The man in the distance was as tall and straight as ever, the image of him she adored. She gave a sinister smile. Even if you beat me to death, Serena won't come back. Do you think this is all my fault? Let me tell you, Ethan Hawthorne, even if Serena hadn't died, she wouldn't have stayed with you. Compared to me, do you really think you're any better? A crack appeared in Ethan's emotionless facade. He slowly tightened his grip on the whip just as a knock sounded at the door. His assistant was waiting. Ethan glanced at him. "What is it?" He took off his gloves and walked towards the bedroom. The assistant leaned in and whispered, "Your mother is here in person." Ethan stopped in his tracks and turned. "Did she say why?" "I don't know, she just showed up. Her plane just landed," the assistant explained, a worried look on his face. This Mrs. Hawthorne was no easy woman to deal with. Her sudden visit meant she had likely heard something. Ethan's expression changed slightly. He immediately headed downstairs, giving orders as he went. "Get the car ready. Seal this villa. If anyone asks about Miss Vance's whereabouts, say she's gone traveling to clear her head. It's been almost half a year, and I haven't seen a trace of you," Matilda Hawthorne complained the moment she saw Ethan. Ethan's lips were a thin line. He remained silent. "It's good that woman is dead. Look at what a mess you've become these past few years. Completely out of your mind, good riddance to that disaster star. Otherwise, who knows what kind of trouble she would have brought to the Hawthorne family." Matilda had heard some rumors and couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. Ethan frowned, a rare rebuttal on his lips. "Mom, Serena was not a disaster star." Matilda raised an eyebrow and laughed. "I know you've always been fond of that girl, but she's dead now. What can you do? It's more important to get married to Isabella." At the mention of Isabella, she asked, puzzled, "By the way, why isn't Isabella with you? I haven't seen her in a long time." "She went on vacation to clear her head," Ethan answered flatly, a flash of disgust in his eyes. Matilda was suspicious. "Vacation? I didn't know about that. And you just let her go alone? That's not safe." Ethan closed his eyes and seemed to sigh softly. "Mom, stay out of my business with Isabella." "What do you mean?" Matilda suddenly straightened up, her eyes sharp and wary. Isabella was the perfect daughter-in-law she had handpicked. A marriage between the Hawthornes and the Vances would only strengthen the Hawthorne Corporation. The car stopped in front of the villa. Ethan didn't get out right away. He turned to his mother, his tone serious. "Mom, I don't want to marry Isabella Vance." Matilda froze, then shot back, "Are you still thinking about Serena?" "Mom, in 3 days, I will announce the annulment of my engagement to the Vances to the media. I will explain everything to the Vance family myself." With that, Ethan opened the door and got out. "He's rebelling, that boy is rebelling." Matilda was trembling with anger, throwing her handbag to the ground. 3 years later, Astoria City Airport. An elegant woman walked out of the terminal, a little boy trotting beside her, and a man pushing a luggage cart on her right. People in the airport turned to look at the family of 3, their eyes filled with envy. While waiting for a car, the man lifted the little boy onto the suitcase, then looked at the woman beside him, his expression hesitant. "Serena, are you sure about this?" Serena took off her sunglasses, enjoying the warm winter sun. "It's not my decision to make," she answered softly. "Leo can't wait. You don't have to put yourself through this. Just give me some time, I can." Ryan Foster started to say anxiously, but Serena cut him off. Her face was calm. "Thank you, Ryan. I have nothing to feel wronged about. 3 years ago, I could fake my own death and leave this place for Leo's sake. I can certainly beg him for Leo's sake now." Ryan was left speechless. He slowly lowered his head. "Okay, I'll listen to you. But if he treats you like he did before, you have to tell me. I'll protect you." "Protect you?" Leo, with his big eyes, mumbled, mimicking their words. Serena looked at him with adoration and couldn't help but ruffle his hair. "Don't be afraid, Mommy will protect you." "Let's go, the car is here," Ryan said, snapping back to reality. The ride-share car had arrived, Hawthorne Corporation Tower. After the morning meeting, the atmosphere on the 15th floor was tense. Everyone sat rigidly at their desks, afraid to even breathe too loudly. The assistant waited nervously outside the office. After what felt like an eternity, the door finally opened. "Mr. Hawthorne, these are the documents from your mother." Ethan frowned and took the files. "Ignore them. Finish up the cases you're working on. The company needs to maintain normal operations." The assistant looked worried. "Mr. Hawthorne, you've been working for over a dozen hours straight. Shouldn't you get some rest?" A few days ago, Mrs. Hawthorne and several shareholders had put immense pressure on them, forcing the entire company, including Ethan, to work through the night. "No need. Get me ready for a short meeting in 20 minutes. Ethan's voice was flat, but the dark circles under his eyes were prominent. "But your mother," the assistant's words trailed off. He was staring at something behind Ethan. Ethan frowned in annoyance and turned. His back instantly went rigid. "Serena, long time no see, Ethan Hawthorne." Serena stood at the door. When her eyes met Ethan's, she tensed, her back straightening. Despite her years in the UK, seeing this man again still made her nervous. "Serena?" Ethan stood frozen, unable to believe his eyes. The love he thought he'd never see again was now standing right in front of him. How could he dare to believe it? "Serena, is that you?" Ethan's voice was hoarse as he asked for confirmation again. Seeing his reaction, Serena couldn't help but laugh inwardly. She had imagined this reunion 1,000 times his disdain, his disgust, his surprise, but she had never imagined she would see joy in his eyes. "It's me," Serena said, composing herself and nodding. The moment the words left her lips, Ethan dropped the files in his hand and rushed over, pulling her into his arms. Feeling the warmth of her body, Ethan finally dared to believe it wasn't an illusion, not a dream. Serena wasn't dead. She was standing right here, alive. Serena was back. "You're not dead, thank God. You're not dead. Serena." Ethan held her tightly. His grip so strong it felt like he wanted to melt her into his own body, as if she would disappear again if he let go for even a second. The familiar scent of his cologne, a scent she remembered so well, filled her senses, making her feel a little dazed. It was a cologne he had bought on a whim at a department store when they were dating. She had casually mentioned that she liked the smell, and he had immediately switched all his personal items to that scent. Even years later, when the cologne was discontinued, Ethan had searched high and low, paying exorbitant prices to buy it. "Serena, you're not dead. You came back to me. This is wonderful." Ethan's words were a jumble as he buried his face in her hair, his body trembling. The other employees in the office stared, wide-eyed. After the initial shock, they began to whisper among themselves. Serena snapped back to reality, a surge of anger rising within her. She awkwardly tried to push the man away. "Ethan Hawthorne, let me go," she said in a low voice. Ethan loosened his arms slightly but still kept her encircled, the elation in his eyes undisguised. "Serena, I'm never letting you go again." He grabbed her arm and pulled her straight into his office. The assistant, snapping out of his daze, quickly turned and quieted the chattering colleagues, preventing the news from reaching Mrs. Hawthorne. "Ethan Hawthorne, I told you to let go of me." Ethan's forceful embrace and grip pushed Serena's anger to its peak. She struggled and finally broke free, watching him warily. "I didn't come here to reminisce with you." Ethan froze, looking down at his empty hand. It felt like a bucket of ice water had been poured over him. The chills spread down his back. He remembered the recurring nightmare, the stark white lights of the hospital, the acrid smell of disinfectant from years ago. He finally realized what he had just done. Ethan lowered his still raised arm and gave a nervous laugh. "I'm sorry, I was just so excited to see you. I thought you were dead all these years." Serena glanced around the office, her eyes landing on the messy desk behind Ethan. A bitter feeling crept into her heart. The boy who had once refused to set foot in the Hawthorne Corporation had finally taken the president's seat. His talent, the talent of a corporate prince, had not been buried by a nobody like her after all. She smiled faintly and explained, "A few years ago, for certain reasons, I had to go abroad for treatment. I'm sorry I didn't tell you I was still alive." Her polite, distant tone made Ethan flinch. He gave a bitter smile and said cautiously, "Serena, I know you hate me. Give me a chance. I'll make it up to you." "Make it up to me?" A mocking smile touched Serena's lips. If he had said this 3 years ago, she might have believed it, might have been moved. But she was not the same Serena anymore. The old Serena had died on that operating table. She frowned and got straight to the point. "Ethan Hawthorne, I had originally planned to live out my days abroad under a new name. After everything that happened, I can't love you anymore. If it weren't for my child, I would never have come back to beg you." "Child? What child?" Ethan's pupils shrank. he asked anxiously, not wanting to miss a single expression on her face. You have another man? Seeing Serena's silence, Ethan suddenly grabbed her shoulders, his expression frantic. Serena looked at him, her feelings a tangled mess. When I woke up back then, she said in a low voice, I found out I was 1 month pregnant. 1 month. Pregnant, Serena's wedding to that worthless man. His mind raced, memories flashing by frame, finally landing on that rundown hotel room years ago, the hasty, passion-filled encounter. This child was his. A look of pure joy flashed in Ethan's eyes. He hugged Serena excitedly, his words tumbling out. It's my child, isn't it? You're carrying my child, you gave birth to him. You still love me, don't you? You must still love me, or you wouldn't have had this child. Ethan clung to this idea like a lifeline, looking at Serena with desperate hope, waiting for her confirmation. Serena's face was blank. She shook her head and once again broke free from his grasp. You're wrong. This is not your child. This is my child, Serena said, her voice cold and resolute. But Ethan didn't seem to care. He held her arm tightly. Serena, it was all my fault before. I was a bastard. These past few years, I've lived in guilt every single day, wishing I could die and follow you. But you said you never wanted to see me again, so I didn't even dare to die. I was afraid you hated me so much that I would just annoy you in the afterlife. At first, I couldn't sleep at all. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw you crying, questioning me. Later, when I could finally sleep, I couldn't even dream of you. Ethan's voice broke as he spoke. A warm sensation suddenly touched his arm. Serena froze, looking up to see Ethan's face streaked with tears. She had seen Ethan in all kinds of states, even at his most ruthless, but she never thought she would see this proud man cry in front of her. A wave of sorrow washed over her, but she quickly suppressed it. The events of the past were still vivid in her mind. Ethan could disbelieve her. He could humiliate her so cruelly, again and again. She couldn't forgive him. So what? Your pain is your punishment, she said. Ethan froze, then lowered his eyes, his voice almost pleading. Serena, believe me, I will make it up to you and the child. If you really want to make it up to me, there is one thing I need your help with, Serena said, biting her lip. What is it? Ethan asked eagerly, thinking things might be turning around. Serena looked up, her eyes like ice. Ethan, my delivery was difficult. Leo has been frail since he was born. He needs a bone marrow transplant to have a chance at life. I came back this time to ask you to save him. A bone marrow transplant? Ethan's heart grew cold. So if it weren't for this, you would never have come back to see me, would you? Serena didn't answer, just looked at him silently. Ethan gave a bitter laugh and released her hand. I understand, I promise you. Do you need me to arrange things with the hospital? He asked, his expression returning to normal. Serena shook her head. No need, I've already arranged it. You'll need to come to the hospital in a few days for the marrow typing. I'll text you the address when I get back. They said nothing more. Serena opened the door and left, leaving Ethan standing alone in the office, staring blankly at the closed door. Mr. Hawthorne, are you all right? The assistant came in, cautiously observing his boss's expression. Ethan shook his head and sat on the sofa. The air still seemed to carry Serena's scent. Everything that had just happened felt like a dream. He looked up dazedly. Serena isn't dead. The assistant's face went pale. He quickly replied, I'll go investigate right now. Ethan was silent for a moment, then said, No need. Tell the main house I won't be back for dinner tonight. The assistant quickly agreed, had the documents signed, and was about to leave when Ethan called him back. I want you to immediately send people to find out everything Serena has been doing these past few years, who she's met. I want to know everything. Ethan's voice was cold, his eyes filled with determination. The doctor Ryan had contacted was a leading expert. 2 weeks after their return, he notified them to come to the hospital for the marrow typing. Serena simply texted Ethan an address, nothing more. She didn't want any more involvement with him than necessary. She planned to take Leo back to the UK as soon as the transplant was successful and stay far, far away. Serena, I'll protect you. If Ethan Hawthorne tries to do anything to you, I'll be the first to stop him, Ryan said resolutely as he closed the car door. Serena shook her head, a little amused. Ryan was a college classmate, and though they were the same age, he always seemed like a boy who never grew up, except when he was seriously working with patients. That's why Leo loved being around his Uncle Ryan. Even for the short walk from the car to the hospital, he insisted on being carried by him. That's right, I'll protect you, Leo puffed out his cheeks, mimicking him perfectly. Serena couldn't help but smile. If Leo spends any more time with you, he's going to turn into a little rascal. That would be great. Humorous and charming like me, he'll be a hit with the girls, Ryan laughed, his eyes fixed on Serena. A hit with the girls, Leo giggled. Ryan suddenly looked at Serena. I'm such a hit with the girls, why don't you like me? Serena froze and quickly looked away, changing the subject. We're almost there. Leo, you can't be scared in a little bit, okay? As she spoke, she stopped short. At the entrance to the hospital lobby, a man in a black trench coat stood holding an umbrella. His tall, straight figure drew the attention of everyone around. He seemed to be waiting for someone. Only Serena knew he was waiting for her. What's wrong? Ryan asked, puzzled. He followed her gaze and also froze, then frowned, freeing one hand to take Serena's arm. Let's go, it's cold. Serena hesitated for only a second before letting Ryan lead her forward, not looking at the man again. Ethan wasn't wearing gloves. His coat was well made but not warm. He had pushed back a meeting to come to the hospital 20 minutes early, hoping to make a good impression on the child he had never met. The handle of the umbrella was bone-chillingly cold, and the warmth he had managed to build up in his hands was now gone, as if it would never return. The three figures walking towards him through the snow became a blur. Only the man and woman's tightly clasped hands were painfully clear. You're early, Serena said, standing before him. Ethan snapped back to reality. His gaze lingered on Ryan for a moment before moving away. It's a slow day at the office, so I came early, he said, his voice hoarse. He then looked at Leo, who was in Ryan's arms. He opened his mouth but couldn't say a word. Serena saw his hesitation and after a moment of silence, reached out and pinched Leo's cheek. Leo, say hello to the uncle. Leo's face puckered. His usual liveliness was gone. He just stared at Ethan with his big eyes, refusing to speak. The air grew thick. Ryan chuckled. Mr. Hawthorne, Leo has always been shy around strangers. Please don't mind him. Ethan tore his gaze away, his face unreadable. Let's go, the doctor is waiting, he said to Serena, then turned and walked towards the elevator. Ryan, ignored, glared at his back. If I didn't need something from him, I would never let you come back here and suffer this. Serena bit her lip and said nothing, quickening her pace to follow Ethan. They soon reached the top floor, where the specialist was already waiting. As soon as they entered, a nurse came to draw their blood. Doctor, son, what's going on? Why is there a different specialist? This isn't who I scheduled, Ryan asked, confused, looking at the expert talking with Ethan. He pulled his old college classmate aside. Hey, you can't get this specialist even if you paid for him. He's the top expert in this field, Dr. Sun said. But how could he? Ryan's gaze fell on Ethan, and understanding dawned. But Serena, holding Leo, was oblivious, listening intently to the expert. Mommy, I'm scared. Leo clung to Serena, only his round eyes peeking out as he watched Ethan. Leo, don't be scared. This grandpa is here to be your friend. He won't hurt you. Trust Mommy, Serena soothed. Ethan, hearing this, paused and turned to meet Leo's gaze. He then pulled a dinosaur keychain from his pocket. Leo blinked and cautiously took the little dinosaur, starting to play with it, no longer saying he was scared. Serena was surprised. The keychain looked new, the tag still on. It seemed Ethan had bought it specifically for Leo. The expert spoke with Ethan for a while, asked about Leo's condition, and then quickly arranged for them to go into the examination room, while also giving Leo a full checkup. Ethan changed his clothes and walked into the room to see Leo sitting on a chair, swinging his little feet. Ethan couldn't help but stare at his face, studying it as if to memorize every detail. His eyes were like Serena's, his nose like Serena's, his mouth too. He looked like a miniature version of her. Ethan couldn't help but smile as he lay down on the examination table next to him. Uncle, Leo suddenly said, his eyes wide and unblinking as he looked at him. Ethan frowned and turned his head. Leo wiggled the dinosaur in his hand. Thank you for the dinosaur. I love dinosaurs. You're wrong, Ethan said, taking the dinosaur. Leo looked at him, confused. What are you talking about, Uncle? Ethan's dark eyes stared straight into Leo's. Leo resembled him in no way except for his eyes. They were exactly the same. You shouldn't call me Uncle, he said suddenly. Leo scratched his head. Mommy said I should call people who are like Uncle Ryan uncle. But you, of all people, can't call me uncle. Then what should I call you? Mommy never told me. Leo pouted, looking very puzzled. Ethan glanced at the dinosaur in his hand, smiled, and tucked it back into Leo's arms. You can call me Dinosaur Dad. Outside the examination room. Don't worry, the match will be successful, Ryan whispered comfortingly. Serena nodded but was still uneasy. If even Ethan couldn't save Leo, what would she do? The results came back quickly. Ethan and Leo were a match. After a period of rest and preparation, they could proceed with the bone marrow transplant. Serena scheduled the appointment with the doctor and left with Leo, but she didn't see Ethan anywhere. She pushed down her confusion and left the hospital. Mr. Hawthorne, your current physical condition is not ideal for a bone marrow transplant. In the empty examination room, the doctor looked over the test results with a worried expression. Ethan's face was calm. How long will the recovery take after the surgery? The doctor thought for a moment, then sighed deeply. Well, with proper care, you can recover within a year, but it will take a toll on your fundamental health. I'm afraid it will be difficult to return to your previous state of health. Over the past few years, his longing for Serena, combined with alcoholism, insomnia, and anxiety, had nearly depleted Ethan's body. In his current state, the transplant was indeed not an optimistic prospect. But Leo's illness couldn't wait. An image of Leo's chubby little face flashed through Ethan's mind. He clenched his fist. Okay, I understand. Doctor, please arrange the surgery as soon as possible. Well, all right. Mr. Hawthorne, you must take good care of yourself these days. The doctor hesitated, but finally agreed. Mr. Hawthorne, should we tell Miss Morgan about this? Back in the car, the assistant looked worriedly at the man's face in the rearview mirror. Ethan shook his head. No. Arrange everything for the surgery as soon as possible, he ordered. The assistant sighed, wanting to say more but holding back. He knew what kind of life Ethan had been living these past few years. Now that Serena was finally back, his life was even more torturous than before. Mr. Hawthorne, Miss Morgan will come around, he sighed, then handed Ethan a file. Mr. Hawthorne, this is the information you asked me to look into. It's true that Isabella Vance bribed a nurse to add something to Miss Morgan's IV, which caused the massive hemorrhage and coma, but a doctor named Ryan Foster saved her. Ethan listened as he flipped through the file. When he saw Ryan Foster's photo, he frowned. What is this doctor's relationship with Serena? Have they been together all these years? The assistant glanced at him cautiously. After this doctor saved Miss Morgan, he took her directly to the UK. It seems they've been together all this time. Enough, stop talking. A rustling sound came from the back seat. The assistant saw Ethan crumple the file into a ball, then heard his order. First, go pick out some toys for a child. Then, come pick me up early tomorrow to go to the hospital. The assistant paused, then understood, a small smile playing on his lips as he sharply turned the steering wheel towards the mall. Because the bone marrow transplant required the patient to be in good condition beforehand, Leo was admitted to a private VIP room on the top floor the next day. Just as Leo finished an IV drip, a figure appeared in the doorway. Serena turned and was surprised to see Ethan himself holding a large bouquet of lilies. The faint floral scent masked the hospital's sharp smell of disinfectant. What are you doing here? The surprise in Serena's eyes was fleeting, replaced by a cool distance. Ethan carefully placed the lilies in a vase, then, like a magician, produced a beautifully wrapped single rose and held it out to Serena. This is for you, he said. Serena stared at the rose, momentarily stunned. What did he mean by giving her a rose? Was he feeling guilty and trying to make up for it with these gestures? The thought made Serena laugh mockingly. She didn't reach for the rose. Ethan Hawthorne, you don't have to do this. I've told you, the past is the past. After the transplant is over, we will have nothing to do with each other. Her words were final. Ethan's arm froze in mid-air, a flash of hurt on his face. There is no past, Ethan said after a moment. At least not for me. It was all my fault before, I hurt you. Now I want to make it up to you to show you that I truly love you. Ethan looked at Serena sincerely, but she turned her face away. It's too late, Ethan Hawthorne. I've already died once. I don't need you to do these things for me anymore, she said coldly. Ethan watched her silently. In the end, he said nothing more, just placed the insulated container he was carrying on the table. "You haven't had breakfast yet, have you? I brought some of your old favorites." His words were cut off by a male voice from the doorway. "You don't need to trouble yourself with that, Mr. Hawthorne. Serena's not feeling well, she can't eat anything too greasy. I brought some soup from home." Ryan Foster looked at Ethan with hostility, quickly setting his soup on the table. Ethan froze, glanced at the slightly greasy breakfast in his hand, and said nothing, simply closing the lid of the container. "I have some things to take care of, I'm heading to the office. I'll come see you another day." Ethan gently ruffled Leo's hair, then left the room. After he left, Serena sighed. "You don't have to be so hostile towards him. I've already made things clear with him." Ryan ladled a bowl of soup and placed it in front of her, urging her to drink. "In my book, he's a high-risk individual. Just let me play the knight for a little while." Serena smiled at his words and said nothing more. That evening, after Ryan went home to get a change of clothes, Leo cautiously asked her, "Mommy, do you not like Dinosaur Dad?" "Dinosaur Dad?" Serena was confused. Leo explained excitedly. And after finding out who Dinosaur Dad was, Serena's expression became complicated. "Why do you call him Dinosaur Dad?" Serena asked. Leo puffed out his cheeks and said mysteriously, "Dinosaur Dad and I made a promise. I can't tell anyone else." "And Mommy, you still haven't answered my question." Serena chuckled and pinched Leo's nose. "Mommy doesn't dislike him, it's just, Mommy doesn't want to be too close to him, it would be too sad." "But Dinosaur Dad is a very good person," Leo said. Serena was taken aback. "Why?" "During the checkup, Dinosaur Dad held my hand the whole time, so I wasn't scared," Leo said after a moment's thought. Serena stroked his head, her thoughts drifting. She had thought she would be completely calm when she faced Ethan again, but just a few meetings had thrown her into turmoil. Ethan's promise to see her again was quickly fulfilled. He arrived just at dinner time. Serena had just come back from getting hot water down the hall. When she pushed open the door, she saw Ethan sitting by the bed. He was dressed formally, his hair styled with gel, clearly having come straight from some social event. He was patiently teaching Leo how to solve a 4x4 Rubik's Cube. "You're back," Ethan looked up at her, his tone casual, as if he had been sitting there waiting for her all along. Serena nodded, her eyes falling on the fresh roses on the windowsill. "You don't have to come so often," Serena said distantly. But Ethan ignored her, focusing on the cube in his hands. Serena leaned back on the sofa, the fatigue of the past few days catching up to her, and she drifted off to sleep. The heating in the room was on full blast, so Serena didn't feel cold. In fact, she felt a little warm. It wasn't until she woke up from her dream that she realized she was leaning against Ethan's chest, his suit jacket draped over her. The familiar, long-lost scent enveloped her again, and Serena felt a little dazed. She quietly looked up at Ethan's chin, where a faint stubble was starting to show. Serena was lost in thought when she heard his voice from above. "You're awake?" Serena came back to her senses and tried to sit up, but he held her tight. Ethan buried his face in her hair. "Just let me hold you for a little while, just a little while." For some reason, Serena's heart softened. She didn't refuse letting him hold her. It wasn't until Leo woke up, mumbling about being thirsty, that she realized what was happening and quickly got up to get him some water. "I should go." After Leo had fallen back asleep, she heard a low voice behind her. She turned to see Ethan had already put on his coat and was waiting for her response. Remembering what had just happened on the sofa, Serena's face grew warm. She nodded and said softly, "Okay. And thank you for the jacket." After getting her response, Ethan left the hospital. Serena glanced at her phone and realized she had slept until 1 in the morning. Her gaze fell on the rose by the bed. A flicker of doubt, mixed with a hint of anticipation, rose in her heart. What was Ethan trying to do? Until the day before the transplant, Ethan came to the hospital almost every day to see Leo, always bringing small toys and sweets. Leo quickly grew fond of him and looked forward to his visits every day. At first, Serena tried to refuse Ethan's visits, but seeing Leo's hopeful face, her heart softened. "Serena, are you thinking of not going back to the UK?" On the day of the surgery, Ryan Foster, sitting outside the operating room, suddenly asked, his eyes filled with a complex mix of emotions. At the mention of the UK, Serena's eyelids fluttered. She sidestepped the question. Let's wait until Leo has recovered. Nothing is certain right now. The light in Ryan's eyes dimmed. He looked at Serena's profile. Serena, you still like Ethan Hawthorne, don't you? Serena's body tensed. What are you talking about after how he hurt me? How could I possibly? She stopped mid-sentence, a pang of guilt hitting her. If you remembered how he treated you before, you wouldn't let him get close to Leo. If he really forms a bond with Leo, how can you two ever cut ties completely? Ryan looked at the closed doors of the operating room. Serena fell silent. Ryan's words had jolted her. The painful memories of years past came flooding back like a tidal wave. Ryan was right. She couldn't let Ethan continue like this. Maybe he was just acting on a whim. She had Leo to think about. She couldn't take that risk again. She lowered her eyes. I know. I won't let him hurt Leo. The surgery lasted until evening. When the green light above the operating room door lit up and the doctor came out, Serena and Ryan rushed forward. Doctor, how was the surgery? Is Leo okay? Serena asked anxiously. The doctor took off his mask and smiled. Don't worry, the surgery was a success. We just need to observe him for a few more days to see if there are any rejection reactions. The weight on Serena's heart finally lifted. She followed Leo's gurney towards the ICU, but out of the corner of her eye, she caught a glimpse of Ethan, his face pale, being wheeled in the opposite direction. But before she could get a better look, her view was blocked by the bustling nurses. The patient's condition is stable now. We'll observe him overnight, and he should wake up tomorrow. The family doesn't need to worry too much. Outside the ICU, the doctor reassured Serena. Remembering the glimpse she had caught of Ethan, she asked worriedly, Doctor, how is Mr. Hawthorne? I didn't see him. The doctor pushed up his glasses and looked at her intently. Mr. Hawthorne just finished surgery and needs to rest. Serena nodded, but an inexplicable sense of unease lingered in her heart. The Hawthorne mansion. That woman isn't dead? Matilda Hawthorne took a sip of her herbal tea, not even glancing at the person next to her. The woman on the sofa next to her nodded slightly, a hint of resentment in her eyes. She's not dead, so all my suffering these past few years was for nothing. Isabella Vance bit her lip, the memory of being locked in the villa's basement for 2 whole months still vivid. Although she was released after the engagement was called off, it didn't stop her from hating Serena. If it weren't for Serena, her dear Ethan would never have treated her like that. Isabella, you can't say that. Even though my Ethan is no longer engaged to you, you can't talk like that, Matilda said slowly, glancing at her. My son has never done anything to hurt you, right? Matilda drank her tea with extreme elegance, but her words carried a threat. Isabella froze, a look of unwillingness flashing across her face, but she quickly said, Mrs. Hawthorne, I don't remember anything. You can rest assured. The Vance family was well known, but they couldn't compare to the Hawthornes. Especially in recent years, the Vance family's fortunes had been declining, and Matilda was fiercely protective of her own. Isabella had no choice but to bow her head. It's good that you know. Let's not talk about that for now. That woman is back and Ethan is bewitched by her again. He barely even eats at home anymore. Matilda didn't finish her sentence, but Isabella immediately understood. Don't worry, Mrs. Hawthorne. Even if Ethan doesn't marry me, I won't let him marry that shameless disaster star. Since the surgery, Serena hadn't seen Ethan. She had checked every room on the same floor but couldn't find him. She suddenly remembered the brief glimpse of his face that day. After all these years, seeing him hurt still pained her. Disappointed, Serena turned back to her room, only to hear footsteps behind her. Serena, a woman's light, arrogant voice called out. Serena found the voice vaguely familiar. What are you doing here? Serena managed a distant smile. Serena, I can't believe you didn't die. You came back to pester Ethan Hawthorne again. Isabella glared at her, her voice dripping with venom. I don't know what kind of black magic you used to wrap my Ethan around your little finger. Serena sneered. Pester? I think the one pestering him is you, and this is a hospital. You can't shout. Isabella's face turned green. She couldn't believe Serena was telling her to leave. Serena was in no mood to sit down and have a polite conversation with Isabella. This woman was ruthless, daring to tamper with things on an operating table. The fact that Serena hadn't thrown a bucket of water on her was a testament to her restraint. Look at your half-dead son. Let's see if he even makes it to see next year's sun, Isabella sneered, spewing venom. Isabella could say anything she wanted about Serena, but not about Leo. Serena's anger flared, and she lunged at her. Isabella dodged Serena's attacks, her eyes filled with triumph. What? I say a few words and you get all worked up. The Hawthorne family will never acknowledge this child. You can just give up on that idea, but her triumph was short-lived, as a splash of cold water hit her full in the face. If you want Ethan Hawthorne so badly, you can have him. I don't want him anymore, Serena said, holding the empty water glass, a sense of satisfaction washing over her. Isabella shrieked, glaring at Serena with pure rage. Serena, are you tired of living? Believe it or not, I can have you thrown out of here right now. A dismissive smile played on Serena's lips. You can try. Isabella stormed out of the hospital. As she was leaving, she bumped into a tall man. She stared at his face, trying to place him. He looked familiar. Then it hit her it was that doctor who was always with Serena. Doctor, I'm so sorry. Isabella grabbed Ryan Foster's arm, her brow furrowed. Do you mind if we talk? Ryan recognized the girl and flinched when she grabbed him. What are you doing? What do you want to talk about? Isabella pulled him into the smoking lounge and got straight to the point. You like Serena, don't you? Ryan fell silent and nodded. Isabella's eyes narrowed into a smile. What a coincidence. I've liked Ethan Hawthorne for years. Why don't we help each other out? If you just wait, he'll never fall for you. Ryan was about to leave, but her words made him stop. What do you have in mind? Isabella stood up straight, a vicious look in her eyes. If we work together, do you really think we can't break them up? What makes you think I'll help you? Ryan glanced at her. I know exactly what you did to Serena back then. Isabella's expression shifted. Don't you like Serena? If so, how can you just stand by and watch her get back together with Ethan Hawthorne? Ryan clenched his fists. We're only back temporarily. As soon as Leo's illness is cured, we're leaving, Isabella sneered. Are you so sure Serena will go with you? You think Ethan will just let her go now that she's back? Ryan fell silent. He gave Isabella a long, hard look, then left. Leo's condition stabilized, and Serena no longer had to stay by his side day and night. She left the hospital and went to pack up the temporary apartment she had rented. Though she had learned a lot and saved some money during her years in the UK, this trip back had been expensive. Serena browsed a second-hand market and finally found some decent used furniture. After a long afternoon of moving it into her apartment, she found Ryan standing at her door, seemingly waiting for her. Why are you standing out here? Come in and sit down, Serena said. Ryan gave a long look at the furniture behind her, his eyes filled with a complex emotion. This apartment belonged to Ryan. When she had suddenly returned, Serena hadn't wanted to impose, so she had moved into this old place. Why didn't you just let yourself in? Serena asked. Ryan glanced at the furniture again. Are you planning to stay? Serena froze, then quickly explained. Even though Leo's transplant was successful, he still has a long road of treatment ahead of him. If that's your only concern, we can go back to the UK. We can find better doctors there, Ryan said, suddenly agitated. Serena felt a pang of guilt and didn't answer. Serena, I like you. You've always known that, haven't you? Ryan said after a long silence. Serena froze, frowning, not wanting to answer. She had always sensed his feelings for her. She wasn't a fool, but she had always seen him as a brother and didn't want to ruin their friendship. Seeing her silence, Ryan finally broke, a bitter smile on his face. I was with you at your lowest point. I took care of you. Didn't you feel anything for me at all? Serena took a deep breath. She knew she couldn't pretend anymore. Ryan, I've always been grateful to you. You helped me all these years. You were good to me and to Leo, and I'll never forget it. I know you like me, but I don't want to lie to you. You're very important to me, so I don't want to just humor you or hurt you. I'm sorry, Ryan. I've always just seen you as a friend. After the last word, Serena lowered her head, ready to accept any blame. It wasn't that she hadn't tried. She had even thought about how wonderful it would be if she could fall in love with Ryan. Serena, I'm not pressuring you. Ryan suddenly grabbed her shoulders, his voice almost pleading. I'm begging you. It's okay if you don't like me now. As long as we leave this city, leave Ethan Hawthorne, one day you'll be moved by me. Serena, just give me a chance. Don't be so cruel. Ryan hugged her tightly, begging her over and over. Serena shook her head and pushed him away. I'm sorry, Ryan. I can't fall in love with anyone anymore, and I don't want to lie to you. At her words, Ryan's eyes turned red. He roared, You just love Ethan Hawthorne, you still love him, so all this talk about Leo is just an excuse. Serena, you've disappointed me so much. Ryan threw the words at her and stormed out, leaving Serena staring at the empty doorway. Was she really staying for Ethan? Did she still love him? A jumble of memories flashed through her mind. Ethan's rage, his coldness, his gentle care in the hospital, that last glimpse of his pale face. How was Ethan now? Had he been discharged? Serena couldn't help but worry. She rummaged through her bag, found a business card, and after a moment of hesitation, dialed the number. The assistant had just gotten hot water from the nurse's station when the call came through. A familiar female voice came from the other end. "Hello, who is this?" The person on the other end was silent for a moment before a clear voice finally said, "Excuse me, how is Mr. Hawthorne? I'm the family of the recipient." The assistant froze, then realized who it was. A look of joy crossed his face. "Miss Morgan, right? You should come to the hospital. Our Mr. Hawthorne is not doing well. He said he wants to see you." Serena asked anxiously, "What's wrong with him? What happened?" The assistant quickly said, "I can't explain over the phone. Miss Morgan, you should come in person." Serena hung up, her feelings a tangled mess. She remembered Ethan's perpetually pale face, the night they had fallen asleep on the sofa. For some reason, a long-forgotten pain washed over her. 15th floor VIP ward, affiliated hospital. The private room was spacious and quiet, save for the soft beeping of medical instruments. The sharp smell of disinfectant filled the air. Ethan sniffed and took the file from his assistant. "Mr. Hawthorne, this is the contract with Junkyang. Please take a look." Ethan grunted in acknowledgement. Seeing his assistant still standing there, he looked up. The assistant smiled. "Mr. Hawthorne, Miss Morgan just called to ask about you. She said she's coming to see you." Ethan's fingers, flipping through the file, paused. "Didn't I tell you not to let anyone know I was in the hospital?" The assistant's face fell. He quickly explained, "Mr. Hawthorne, Miss Morgan called me because she was worried about you. I thought you'd be happy to see her." Ethan said nothing more, just grunted and dismissed the assistant, a faint smile playing on his lips. The hospital's disinfectant smell was pungent. Serena stood at the glass door, straightened her clothes, then pushed the door open and walked in. "What are you doing here?" The man looked up at the sound of her voice, his gaze heavy. The white room's window was wide open, the curtains fluttering in the breeze. Serena replaced the old flowers with the bouquet of lilies she had brought and placed them gently on the bedside table. "I just went to the doctor's office. I found out your health wasn't ideal before the surgery." Serena looked down as she spoke, a hint of guilt in her expression. Ethan froze, a sudden urge to pull the woman standing by the door into his arms. "You don't have to feel guilty. This is what I should have done. If I hadn't, Leo would have missed the best time for treatment," Ethan said, his heart aching at her guilty expression, but at the same time, he was gratified that she was worried about him. "Serena, come sit here. I want to talk to you," he said. Serena didn't hesitate, pulling up a chair and sitting beside him. "Thank you for your care these past few days. You arranged for the specialist for Leo's surgery, didn't you?" Serena kept her eyes down, not looking at the man in the bed. Ethan couldn't help but grab her hand, holding it tightly. "Serena, I know I was wrong in the past. These 3 years, I've been in agony every single moment. I know you still hate me, but I'm not afraid. Whether it's love or hate, just stay by my side. Don't go anywhere, okay?" Ethan said urgently, his usually cold face showing a rare hint of panic and fear. Something in her heart seemed to be reawakening, but at the same time, a voice kept telling her she couldn't go back. The pain of the past flashed before her eyes, suppressing that flicker of warmth. "Ethan Hawthorne, I had already decided before I came back. As soon as Leo is well, I'm leaving. I accept your apology, but that doesn't mean I'm willing to forgive and forget." "It's okay, I can wait for you. I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you," Ethan said in a low voice, his grip tightening. A strange feeling flickered in Serena's heart, but it vanished as quickly as it came. "If you don't want to hear this, then I won't say it. It's about time for Leo to wake up. Come with me to see him," Ethan said, slowly getting out of bed, one hand holding her arm. The warm touch on her arm made Serena pause. For some reason, she didn't pull away. Ethan was right. Leo was already awake by the time they got there. When they opened the door, a look of pleasant surprise crossed Leo's face. He rubbed his eyes and grinned. "Dinosaur Dad, what took you so long to come see me?" Because I gave all my energy to Leo, so I had to hibernate for a while to recover before I could come see you, Ethan said. He then stroked Leo's head and smiled indulgently. How are you feeling today? Leo lay obediently in bed, his round eyes fixed on Ethan. Today, when the nurse gave me a shot, I didn't cry. Then why are you about to cry now? Ethan chuckled, looking at Leo's suddenly teary eyes. Leo rubbed his eyes. Because Mommy said I have to be strong in front of the nurse, but I can cry in front of Mommy. Ethan looked back at Serena and smiled. Mommy is right. You should always listen to Mommy. Leo woke up for a little while, then fell back asleep. He had just undergone a major, high-risk surgery. He had practically been to hell and back, spending 5 or 6 days in the ICU. He was only now fully awake, and his vitals were returning to normal. It seems Leo really likes you. Serena affectionately stroked Leo's sleeping head, gently removing the stuffed rabbit from his arms. Yes, he's been close to me from the beginning, Ethan smiled, his eyes filled with a gentle warmth as he watched the mother and son. He couldn't tear his eyes away. His words reminded Serena of the day of the marrow typing, when Leo had refused to call him uncle. But when you and Leo first met, he seemed to be afraid of you. Afraid? Ethan's expression dimmed at the thought. It was only right that Leo was afraid of him. After all, he had done such cruel things to them. I won't let him be afraid anymore, Ethan said. Meanwhile, the Hawthorne mansion was anything but peaceful. What Matilda Hawthorne slammed her hand on the table, shattering a pair of wine glasses. She glared, her eyes wide with fury. That woman came back with a child? Where is that child now? After Serena's faked death, it wasn't just Ethan who held out hope and searched for her. Matilda had also been secretly gathering information and was fully aware of what Isabella had done. Madam, the child came back with Serena. I heard he's also seriously ill, the person reporting said timidly. But Matilda heard something else. She frowned. What did you just say? Seriously ill? That woman really is a disaster star. What is she trying to get from our family this time? She took a few deep breaths, then asked, and Ethan, has he been in contact with that woman recently? The man's face paled. Madam, Serena recently took the child to the hospital for surgery. The young master has been going to the hospital every other day, even canceling important meetings. What that little vixen, what kind of spell has she cast on Ethan? After all these years, why is he still so obsessed with her? Matilda roared in fury. Madam, not only that, but the bone marrow for the child's transplant, it was the young master who was the match. The man's voice trailed off. Matilda froze, the cup in her hand shaking and then crashing to the floor. She clenched her fists, her face a mask of hatred. Is that woman still in the hospital? The butler nodded. The hospital? Matilda gritted her teeth. Arrange a time for me. I'm going to see that woman. At the hospital, after Ethan left, Serena sat on the bed, lost in thought. She couldn't help but think about Ethan's words. It would be a lie to say she wasn't moved. She had to admit, even after all these years, she still had feelings for him. She had no resistance to him. But Ryan's confession that afternoon and his words also echoed in her mind. She didn't know whether to trust Ethan or Ryan. Her gaze fell on Leo's face. She let out a small laugh. In this world, the only one she could truly trust was Leo. The door to the room was suddenly pushed open. Serena looked up, surprised to see the last person she wanted to see. Ethan's mother, Matilda Hawthorne. Been in the UK for a few years and got some nerve, have you? Matilda stood at the door, sneering. After a moment of surprise, Serena composed herself and greeted her politely. It's been a long time, Mrs. Hawthorne. Matilda raised an eyebrow. You've got a lot of luck coming back from the UK. Serena knew exactly why Matilda was here. She smiled faintly. I wonder what brings you here, Mrs. Hawthorne? Matilda sneered and got straight to the point. Name your price. How much will it take for you to leave my son this time? The same old trick. Serena snorted inwardly but kept her composure. Mrs. Hawthorne, are you still using the same tactic after all these years? Matilda, refusing to be outdone, shot back with a cold laugh. What do you think you are now? Are you still fantasizing that Ethan will marry you? I only came back to get treatment for Leo. I have no intentions towards Ethan. You can rest assured, Mrs. Hawthorne. Serena said calmly, making no move to invite her in. You'd better mean that. You are not to pester Ethan anymore. This is my last warning to you, Serena. Matilda glared at her. She had come this time to see for herself what kind of woman Serena was. Their brief meeting 5 years ago hadn't given her much time to understand her, and then she had heard about the massive blood loss. Now she was seeing just how formidable this woman was. And that child. Matilda glanced around the room but didn't see Leo. "Since you don't want me to have any contact with Ethan, you shouldn't concern yourself with the child either," Serena said coldly, a wave of discomfort washing over her. It was Matilda who had insulted her and driven her away with money back then, and now she was here, demanding to see Leo. Serena found it laughable. Matilda frowned, displeased. Her purpose in coming was to see the child. She had heard it was a boy and he was Hawthorne blood. She couldn't just let the child suffer with Serena. "Mrs. Hawthorne, it's getting late. You should go home," Serena said, tired of the back and forth, and showed her the door. Matilda snorted and turned to leave, only to bump into a small figure at the door. "I'm sorry, Grandma." Leo clutched his forehead and apologized timidly, tears welling in his eyes. Matilda was about to lose her temper, but when she saw Leo's face, she froze. Leo looked exactly like Ethan as a child, as if they were cast from the same mold. "What's your name?" Matilda immediately crouched down, her voice trembling. Leo was a polite boy. Though he was scared by the suddenly crying old woman, he answered cautiously, "My name is Leo Hawthorne." Leo. Serena frowned and waved at him. "Leo, come here." Leo hesitated for a moment, then bowed to Matilda. "Grandma, can you please move?" Matilda froze, then quickly stepped back into the room. Leo scurried to Serena's side, Matilda's eyes glued to his small back. He should have the Hawthorne name. Matilda stood at the door, her eyes fixed on Leo. Serena hid Leo behind her. "Mrs. Hawthorne, Leo is my child. Whether his last name is Hawthorne or Morgan has nothing to do with you." Serena took a few steps forward and slammed the door shut, leaving Matilda outside. "Joe, go and find out everything you can about that child." Matilda's face was ashen. Even if the child was Serena's, he was still Hawthorne blood. She couldn't let such a potential problem remain. Meanwhile, in the 15th floor VIP ward, Ethan had just received news of his mother's sudden arrival at the hospital. He immediately got up, ready to go find Serena before his mother could say anything more to her. Just as he pushed open the door, he saw Isabella Vance standing there. "What are you doing here?" Ethan looked at her with disgust and tried to push past her, but Isabella grabbed his arm. "Don't worry, your mother has already left the hospital. Your precious darling is still alive and well," Isabella said in a sarcastic tone. This was the first time Ethan had seen her in the 2 years since he had sent her back to her family. Isabella had tried to see him before, but he had always avoided her. Ethan stopped. "How did you find me here? Only a few people knew he was in the hospital." "Your mother told me." Isabella smiled smugly. "Ethan, you see, even if Serena didn't die, even if she had your son, your mother will never let her marry you, never let her into the Hawthorne family." Ethan finally turned to look at her properly, his eyes filled with anger. "And you think, with your current status, my mother would approve of you?" The words hit their mark. Isabella's face turned ashen. "If I can't have it, Serena can't have it either, Ethan. What do I lack compared to her? Why won't you even look at me?" Ethan gave her a cold look and, without another word, walked past her towards the elevator. Isabella looked up, her gaze fixed on Ethan's back with pure hatred. "Ethan Hawthorne, you forced me to do this." She took out her phone and dialed a number. Ethan rushed to the 5th floor, heading straight for Leo's room. "Serena," he burst through the door, calling out her name anxiously, only to stop short. "Leo's asleep." Serena gestured for him to be quiet, pointing to the sleeping boy on the bed. Ethan quietly closed the door, and they moved to the small sitting area. After a moment of silence, Ethan spoke. "My mother came to see you?" Serena nodded but said nothing. They sat on the sofa, a space between them that felt as vast as a century. "I know about what happened 5 years ago. I found out where the money went. I misunderstood you." Ethan spoke softly, a hint of pleading in his voice. "It's all in the past." Serena shook her head, not responding directly. "Serena, I will never let something like that happen again." Ethan suddenly grabbed her arm, his voice earnest. Serena froze and pulled away. "Ethan, I admit I'm a mess when I'm around you. My heart pounds when I see you, when you touch me, but I can forget what happened in the past. I just can't be with you." As she spoke, her voice choked. The old wounds were distant, but they were like scars. They might fade, but they would never truly disappear. I want to start over, but I can't face you. Ethan's outstretched hand froze in midair. He had thought Serena's return was a gift from heaven. He never imagined it wasn't a second chance, that he had no say in the matter. Serena was the one in control. Whether she stayed or left was her decision. And all of this was his own fault. Ethan let out a long sigh and leaned back on the sofa, his eyes dim. Okay, I'll give you time. Think about it. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. But if you choose to stay, Serena, you have to understand, I will never, ever let you go again. The sky was dark, heavy clouds rolling in with visible speed. Ryan Foster stood by the iron gate of the rooftop, his expression cold and tense, a hint of sinister intent in the set of his jaw. So, have you made up your mind? Willing to stoop to my level? Isabella leaned against the railing, laughing, her thin body half suspended over the edge, as if she could fall at any moment. Ryan put his phone in his pocket and took a few steps forward. What do you want me to do? Isabella jumped down from the railing, blinking. I told you, Serena doesn't like you. Instead of watching her be all lovey-dovey with someone else, why not just take her? Ryan frowned and urged, what do you want me to do? To get her to go back to the UK with me? Simple. You know Serena's greatest weakness better than anyone, Isabella said mysteriously. Ryan froze, then understood, his eyes widening. No, Leo is her life. Exactly, that's why we have to start with Leo, Isabella said. Ryan fell silent. Don't worry, we're just going to use him to threaten Serena a little. Then we can blame it all on Ethan. You think Serena won't obediently go back to the UK with you then? After a moment of hesitation, Ryan finally answered, okay. As long as you don't hurt Leo, I can help you bring him here. Since that day, Serena hadn't seen Ethan. It seemed he was keeping his promise to give her freedom. Freedom to decide whether to stay or go. Mommy, what are you looking at? Leo came over, curious, and looked in the same direction, but saw nothing interesting. Serena shook her head and soothed him, her mind going back to Ethan's words. She was torn, not knowing what to do. On one hand, her rational mind told her to stay away from Ethan, to avoid getting hurt again. On the other, her heart longed for him. Room 21, the patient can be discharged today. A nurse suddenly knocked on the door, interrupting her thoughts. Serena shook her head, pushing the thoughts aside, and quickly packed their things, completing the discharge procedures for Leo. Ryan's car was already waiting downstairs. Though they had seen little of each other since their argument, Serena greeted him naturally. What are you waiting for? Get in. Ryan rolled down the window, his usual cheerful smile on his face. Serena studied him for a moment, then relaxed, about to put Leo in the back seat. But Ryan suddenly said, there's a lot of stuff. Why don't you put Leo in the front? Serena thought about it and agreed, placing Leo in the passenger seat. I'm sorry about before. I went too far, Serena apologized. Ryan looked at her in the rearview mirror, his expression complicated. It's fine. Do I look like someone who holds a grudge? Serena smiled faintly, the weight in her heart finally lifting. They chatted for a bit in the car, then Ryan suddenly asked, Leo's been discharged. Have you decided? When are you going back to the UK? I can book the tickets together. Serena hesitated. I haven't decided yet, she said, a little apologetically. Ethan had given her 2 weeks to think, and she really needed to consider it carefully. Ryan's expression darkened, a complicated look in his eyes. Okay, I understand. He said nothing more. Winter days grew dark quickly. Soon, the streets were lit up with neon lights. Serena watched the traffic, her eyelids growing heavy. Just before she closed her eyes completely, she saw a very familiar face. Nightfall Bar. The city's liveliest bar was unusually quiet tonight. The second-floor booths were empty, except for one in the very center, where a distinguished-looking man sat, downing glass after glass of alcohol. Mr. Hawthorne, we have a meeting tomorrow. Maybe you should slow down. Ethan ignored him. The temporary euphoria from the alcohol allowed him to numb his senses, his memories. It allowed him to stop thinking about that woman. Do you know what the hardest thing in the world is? He asked, looking up drunkenly at his assistant. The assistant sighed and threw out a few random answers, only to be met with Ethan's laughter. Wrong, the hardest thing in the world is getting something back after you've lost it. There's no such thing as getting something back. Once it's lost, it's lost. When you find it again, it's not yours anymore. The assistant listened for a while and finally understood what he was talking about. Seeing that he was about to pass out, the assistant quickly propped him up, cleared the table of glasses, and then laid him down on the sofa. But he had barely been asleep for a moment when his phone rang. "Hello, is this Mr. Hawthorne? We just received a distress call." The assistant listened, his face turning pale. He shook Ethan's shoulder. "Mr. Hawthorne, wake up, something's happened to Miss Morgan." Ethan was heavily drunk. It took a splash of cold water to the face to finally wake him up. "What did you say?" Ethan shot up, his earlier haze gone, replaced by a frantic panic. "Quick, get the car to the police station." Now, the car screeched to a halt in front of the police station. Ethan got out and was met by a man coming out of the building, his face anxious. "The distress call came from your sister-in-law around 8:12 p.m. The call lasted 47 seconds. The two of them talked as they walked. By the time they reached the monitoring room, Ethan had gotten the gist of the situation from his old friend, Ronan Pierce. "The last person Serena saw was Ryan Foster?" he asked, looking at the file. Ronan nodded. "Our initial assessment is that there's a high probability Ryan Foster kidnapped her and Leo." Ethan's face was expressionless, but the panic in his eyes was palpable. He pointed to Isabella Vance's name. "Check her." Ronan had his men start the search. Ethan, however, was thinking about what had happened at the hospital yesterday. After a moment of thought, he called his mother. "Mom, Serena and Leo have been kidnapped. Do you know anything about this?" His voice was ice cold. "Ethan, what are you talking about?" "I don't know anything." Matilda's tone was dismissive, as if it were a trivial matter. Ethan frowned. "Isabella Vance came to see me at the hospital yesterday." "Did you two plan this?" he asked, his question a direct accusation. Matilda could no longer pretend. "Yes, it was me. Serena had a child and refused to give him to the Hawthorne family. What does that tell you? She's just after our family's money, trying to use the child to get it all." Ethan closed his eyes and pleaded softly, "Mom, just bring Leo back." "Leo isn't with me. My only intention was to bring the Hawthorne bloodline home. I don't know where he is." "Could it be a mistake?" Ronan scratched his head. Just then, an officer exclaimed, "The person with this phone just made another call, but it didn't go through." Ronan's face lit up. "Can you pinpoint the location?" "It's somewhere in the Old City District. We need more time for a more precise location," the officer said. Ronan let out a breath and was about to turn and tell his friend the news, but he was already gone. "Damn it," Ronan cursed, then grabbed a few officers and followed Ethan's car. In the dim room, Serena slowly regained consciousness. Her phone was still on the call screen. She looked around the empty room. Leo was nowhere to be seen. She frowned and quickly redialed, but the iron door next to her began to rattle. One bang, two, three. The sound grew more violent until the door was kicked open. "Serena," Ethan rushed to her side, pulling her into his arms, his voice frantic as he tried to soothe her. "Don't be afraid, I'm here. I'm here to save you." Serena was trembling all over. It took her a moment to form a complete sentence. Leo is gone. We have to find Leo," she said. Ethan took Serena home. Ronan, based on the clues Serena provided, started by investigating Ryan Foster and found that he had indeed been in close contact with Isabella Vance over the past few days. "Before I passed out, I think I saw Isabella's face. If she really kidnapped him, Leo is in great danger," Serena said anxiously as Ethan held her, trying to comfort her. On the rooftop, the wind was bone-chilling. Isabella stared with amusement at the sleeping boy on the ground. After a long moment, she let out a tusk. "This little one, he really is Ethan's son. He looks just like him," she chuckled. Ryan frowned and covered Leo with a jacket to keep him from getting cold. "I've brought him. What do you want to do now?" "What to do? Wait for the fish to take the bait, of course." Isabella pulled a dagger from somewhere and gestured with it towards Leo. "What are you doing? You said you wouldn't hurt Leo." Ryan stared nervously at the knife in her hand, afraid she would accidentally cut the boy. Isabella just laughed, pointing the tip of the knife at Leo, then took a few pictures with her phone and sent them to Serena. "You said you were just going to threaten them," Ryan said, a growing unease in his heart as he watched Isabella with the knife. He sensed something was very wrong. Isabella's laugh was venomous. "Threaten. If you don't use a knife, don't draw a little blood, they won't know what real fear is." "You promised me you wouldn't hurt Serena," Ryan shouted, but Isabella easily pushed him away. "Promise. When did I promise that?" she sneered, her eyes suddenly turning vicious. When no one was expecting it, she lunged, stabbing towards Leo. Luckily, Ryan was quick. He threw himself in front of the boy, taking the blow. A deep gash appeared on his arm, blood pouring out. "Isabella Vance, you used me," Ryan roared in anger. She was unfazed. "It's not time to deal with him yet. You can relax." Ryan looked down at Leo's sleeping face, a wave of guilt washing over him. "What do you really want? It's not just to break them up, is it?" Ryan stared at her, watching her every move. Isabella laughed mockingly and put the knife away. Ryan finally breathed a sigh of relief, only to hear her say, "You're right, I don't just want to break them up. I want Serena dead, and I want Ethan to love me, to have no one else in his heart." Ryan roared in fury. "That's impossible, I will never let you hurt Serena." He rushed forward and scooped Leo into his arms, about to run downstairs, but Isabella just sneered and plunged the knife into his arm. Ryan cried out in pain, but refused to let go of Leo. "You're quite the devoted one, aren't you? But what good does it do? You're still just an obedient little dog," Isabella sneered. She found an iron pipe from somewhere and brought it down hard on the back of Ryan's head. "Any leads today?" Serena asked, looking at the file. Ronan shook his head and sighed. "They must be in the same area where they found out I was still alive." Serena was frantic, but there was no trace of Ryan or Isabella. "What about Ryan Foster? Any news on him?" Ethan asked, his eyes filled with anxiety. Ronan shook his head. "We investigated his movements that day." He paused. "We found that he's very good at covering his tracks. He switched cars several times, and we couldn't pinpoint his final destination. As for Isabella Vance, we contacted her family, but there are no other leads. We did get this, though." He tossed a folder onto the table. Ethan flipped through it, his expression changing. Seeing something was wrong, Serena took the folder and looked through it. The words "history of mental illness" were prominent on the page. Her face paled. "What's her condition now? Is it stable? What are her symptoms during an episode?" A person having a psychotic episode is unpredictable. That meant Leo was in a situation that could explode at any moment. He was in imminent danger. She couldn't just sit and wait. "I'm going out to find him." Serena couldn't wait any longer. She didn't know where her beloved son was sleeping, what he was eating. In a panic, she got up and rushed towards the door, but Ethan stopped her. "Serena, calm down. Panicking won't help. Trust me, I won't let anything happen to Leo." Serena gradually calmed down, but she could no longer control her emotions and broke down in tears. Ethan comforted her for a moment, then his phone vibrated. He had received a text message. It was a photo, a close-up of Leo's sleeping face. Ethan's expression changed. He quickly showed the phone to Ronan, telling him to trace the location. Just then, an officer came in. "Chief, there's a man at the door who wants to turn himself in." Ronan frowned. "Let him in." The sound of stumbling footsteps came from the doorway, and a tall man appeared. It was Ryan Foster. He was a complete mess, his upper body covered in blood. "Serena," he whispered. But Ethan grabbed him by the collar, his voice filled with rage. "Where is Leo? Where did you take him?" Ryan swayed, his lips pale. He stammered, "I'm sorry, it's all my fault." Serena's eyes were red. "Ryan Foster, tell me, where did you hide my Leo?" Ryan suddenly dropped to his knees. "Serena, I'm so sorry." Ryan's eyes were bloodshot, his arm covered in dried blood. He looked more exhausted than ever. "Where is Leo?" Serena's voice was a hoarse whisper. "It's all my fault. If it weren't for me, Leo wouldn't be in danger." Serena gritted her teeth. "What did you do? Where is he?" Ryan flinched. "It was me. I kidnapped Leo. I listened to Isabella's lies." He confessed everything. As he spoke, Ronan had his men go out to search, but the location Ryan gave them was already empty. "There are clear signs of activity here. They must have left recently." Looking at the messy rooftop, one of Ronan's officers reported back. Ronan nodded and looked at Ethan. "Ethan, the surveillance around here is not great. It's going to be hard to track them." Ethan bit his lip and squeezed Serena's hand reassuringly. "Don't be afraid, we will find Leo." Serena nodded, but her hand clutched Ethan's sleeve. Her heart was in turmoil. Isabella was a vicious woman who didn't play by the rules. She didn't know what would happen to Leo in her hands. "Sister-in-law, don't worry, she must have kidnapped Leo for a reason. She won't do anything to him for now." Serena nodded, but just then, her phone buzzed with a text. It was a video from Isabella. In the video, Leo was unconscious, his face pale. Isabella was holding a knife, waving it back and forth in front of his face. "Where is this?" Serena cried out, her heart clenching. "This is the abandoned building I took you to," Ryan suddenly said, his face filled with guilt, unable to meet Serena's eyes. "She promised she wouldn't hurt Leo, that's why I brought him out." Serena turned away, not wanting to look at him. Ryan knew he was in the wrong and stood quietly to the side. "I got it too," Ethan suddenly said, holding his phone, his brow furrowed. Serena quickly leaned over to look. The new video showed Isabella in a black wedding dress, sitting on a sofa, smiling at the camera. "Ethan Hawthorne, you must be looking for me everywhere right now. Don't bother. I'll tell you where I am. You come here obediently. Otherwise, I'll torture your precious son." The screen went dark. Ethan's phone buzzed again with another text. It was short and to the point, just an address. The police had been monitoring the call, and in that limited time, had managed to pinpoint Isabella's location. "The text says to be there tomorrow at noon, just the two of us," Ethan said, reading the message aloud. "If you guys come with us, it could be bad for us," he said anxiously to Ronan. Ronan nodded. "Isabella is in a very unstable state, and she has a hostage. Tomorrow, you and sister-in-law will have to go in, as she says, distract her. That will give us a chance to rescue the hostage." Serena nodded in agreement. Isabella is alone, but in the video, the room was dark and there was water on the floor. "I don't know if she'll do something extreme." "It's possible," Ronan said, studying the deployment map. "I'll go with you," Ryan suddenly stepped forward. "This whole thing happened because of me. I will protect Leo, no matter what." He was too ashamed to look Serena in the eye. "And if I pretend to side with her, she might let her guard down." Ronan nodded. "You're right. Isabella is hostile towards Ethan and sister-in-law. Maybe you can stabilize her." The next day at noon, they split into 3 teams and set out for an old residential building in the south of the city. "This is it." Ronan stopped the car 100 meters from the target location, glanced at his phone, and whispered. He waved his hand, and the plainclothes officers in the cars behind him got out. Serena sat distractedly in the passenger seat, her mind filled with images of Leo. Ethan quickly drove to the entrance. Looking at the closed gate, he gently squeezed Serena's hand, telling her not to be nervous. "Serena, I'm sorry." Ryan also got out of the car. As they walked towards the low-rise building, he grabbed her hand and said in a low voice. Serena glanced at him, silently pushed his hand away, and turned to follow Ethan. The building was old, and the surrounding houses were mostly deserted. Even though it was almost noon, it was eerily quiet. Ethan knocked lightly on the door, with Serena and Ryan behind him. After a long wait, the door didn't open, but Ethan received a text telling him where the key was. Ethan found the key, and the 3 of them entered. The room was dark, and the moment they opened the door, a musty smell hit them. "Isabella Vance, we're here as you asked." Ethan stood at the entrance, shielding Serena behind him. He waited until his eyes adjusted to the darkness, before shouting into the room. The lights in the house suddenly turned on, and the 3 of them finally saw the layout. The entire first floor was empty. The windows were covered with blackout curtains. By the staircase was a sofa, exactly like the one in the video. This had to be the place. Serena's heart pounded as she anxiously searched for Leo, heading straight for the stairs. Serena, Ethan, and Ryan called out at the same time. Ethan quickly caught up to her and took her hand. "Don't be impulsive." Ryan looked at their backs, a bitter taste in his mouth. Just then, a female voice came from above. "You're finally here. Ethan Hawthorne, you've kept me waiting so long." It was Isabella's voice. The 3 of them stopped and looked up. Serena realized the first and second floors were open to each other. She could see the ceiling of the second floor, and right above them, several cameras were installed. Ethan pulled Serena closer, his eyes scanning the surroundings warily. "Isabella Vance, we're here now. You can state your demands." Isabella laughed, her voice a little crazed. "Any demand? It seems you really care about that illegitimate brat Serena gave birth to." With that, the sound of Leo's frightened sobs came through the loudspeaker. "Mommy, where are you? I'm so scared." Leo, where are you?" "Don't be afraid, Mommy's coming to save you." "Isabella Vance, if you hate me, then come after me. This has nothing to do with Leo," Serena shouted desperately. But Isabella replied, "Oh, really? Since you're so willing, I'll give you a chance. Come up to the roof now and trade yourself for your son." "Fine, as long as you let Leo go." Serena nodded and started towards the stairs. But Ryan grabbed her hand. "You can't go, she'll kill you." Serena shook her head, her expression resolute. "Leo is in her hands, I have to go no matter what." Guilt washed over Ryan. He looked at her deeply. "I'll go with you. This is all my fault." Serena didn't refuse, and they went up to the roof together. But the roof was empty. Ethan had wanted to go with them, but seeing Ryan go, he felt a little more at ease. He needed to stay here and handle Isabella. "As long as you let Leo go, I'll agree to anything," he said, staring at one of the cameras. "Anything?" Isabella chuckled sarcastically. "But when I begged you to marry me, you wouldn't even look at me," Isabella said. "Since you're saying that now, then I want you to come up to the second floor." Ethan obediently went to the second floor. It was just one empty room, divided by a glass door. "How long did you plan this?" The surveillance equipment was extensive. It was clear this had been in the works for a long time. Isabella sat in front of several screens and smiled. "Since the day you rejected me at the hospital." Ethan frowned. "I only love Serena. Why are you doing all this?" "You only love Serena, even though she was dead, you still loved her." Isabella's voice was mocking. "But Ethan, what do I lack compared to her? Why couldn't you even look at me once?" Ethan ignored her and asked directly, "Where is Leo? What's the rush?" "Serena just went up. She's the one who agreed to trade herself for Leo." Isabella smiled faintly, then stood up and led Ethan to a room with a monitor, the camera aimed at the rooftop. "Where is Leo?" The door closed and Ethan pressed, his eyes burning with urgency. Isabella pointed at the screen. "What's the rush? You'll see in a minute." Ethan's gaze shifted to the monitor. In the frame, Serena and Ryan were walking onto the roof. He clenched his fists. "What are you trying to do? Don't you want your son? Then trade Serena for him." Isabella spoke into a microphone. "Serena, go stand on the edge of the roof." On the roof, Serena froze, then walked towards the edge. Ryan grabbed her. "You can't go over there, it's dangerous." "She's doing all this just to kill you." Ryan held her arm tightly, his heart filled with regret. "If it weren't for him, things would never have gotten this bad. Don't worry, I have a plan. I'm not stupid enough to do whatever she says, but we don't know where Leo is, so we have to play along for now." "You wait here in case something happens," Serena said. Ryan finally nodded and reluctantly let go of her arm. "I've done what you asked. Where is Leo?" Serena stared at the camera. Isabella sneered, then turned to Ethan. "You wanted to know where your son is?" She pressed a button. On the screen, an old, suspended box in the corner of the roof slowly opened. Leo was inside, his hands and feet tied. The moment he saw Serena, tears streamed down his face. "Mommy, I'm scared." "Leo, don't be afraid, Mommy's here, don't cry. I'll save you right now," Serena shouted. Leo let out a choked sob but stopped crying. "Serena, I wouldn't move if I were you. I just have to press this button and this whole contraption will break. Your son will fall 5 stories. He'll be dead or crippled." Serena's outstretched leg froze. "Leo," Ethan shot up, grabbing Isabella's collar. "What are you trying to do? He's just a child." "Ethan Hawthorne, I suggest you behave, or I'm afraid you won't be able to handle the consequences." Isabella waved the remote in her hand, her smile venomous. "Isabella Vance, do you know what you're doing is illegal?" Ethan growled, but he obediently took 2 steps back, glancing at the monitor, his eyes filled with worry. "Illegal? Ethan Hawthorne, do you know I've loved you since we were children? I would have given my life to be with you." Isabella's sneer turned into a crazed look. "But you had to love a woman who was nothing compared to me. I even killed for you, but you wanted to send me to prison." "Ethan Hawthorne, you're so cruel." Ethan frowned and cut her off. "Isabella Vance, I am not your property. Who I love is my choice. You don't have to kill for someone who doesn't love you or commit crimes." He had known her for years. If it weren't for all this, he would have been happy to treat her as a sister. "Ethan Hawthorne, let me ask you one thing. If there was no Serena, would you have loved me?" Isabella suddenly asked. Ethan was silent for a long moment, then shook his head. "No, but I always thought of you as my sister." "Sister?" Isabella laughed bitterly, her eyes suddenly turning sharp. "Sister. A fine sister. Since I can't have you, then I'll destroy you." With that, she slammed her thumb down on the button. Ethan let out a desperate cry and lunged for the remote, but it was too late. Isabella's triumphant laugh echoed through the room. "Ethan Hawthorne, I want you to watch your son die, to watch Serena hate you for the rest of her life. I want you to know what it feels like to love someone you can never have." Ethan turned back to the monitor. The screen flickered, the camera knocked askew. All he could hear from the speaker was Leo's terrified cry. "Mommy, I'm scared," the wind howled on the rooftop. Ryan stared in horror at what was happening, his mind a blank. "Serena, grab my hand," he yelled, leaning over the edge of the roof, reaching for Serena, who was now hanging from the side of the building. Serena tightened her grip, trying to pull herself up, but she was too far out to get any leverage. "Mommy, I'm scared." Leo was clutched tightly in Serena's arms, his head tucked in. It had all happened so fast. Before Serena could even think, her body had reacted. "Serena, hold on, I'll go get help." Serena was too far down for Ryan to reach. He had no choice but to go find someone. Serena looked up, trying to inch closer to the wall. When she fell, she had landed on a security grate outside a third-floor window. They were precariously perched there. But the building was old and dilapidated, and the grate was held in place by just a few screws. "Leo, don't be afraid. Mommy will protect you," Serena said, trying to gauge the distance to the ground. Her brow furrowed. "Serena," a familiar voice called from above. Serena looked up and saw Ethan. The moment she saw him, tears streamed down her face. "I'm sorry, I'm late." Ethan's heart was pounding. He leaned out as far as he could, but still couldn't reach her. "Ethan, get Leo first," Serena said, lifting the boy above her head. Ethan's heart ached. He leaned out further and managed to grab Leo. "Mommy, I want Mommy," Leo cried, clinging to Ethan. Ethan forced back his pain and looked down. "Serena, I will never let you go again," he turned, placed Leo in a safe spot, and stroked his head. "Leo, you wait here. Daddy's going to go get Mommy back." Ethan took off his jacket and shirt, quickly tying them into a knot and securing it to the railing. He grabbed one end and slowly slid down. "Ethan, don't come down, get back up," Serena cried, her eyes filled with tears as she watched him descend towards her. "Quick, give me your hand." The makeshift rope wasn't long enough, and there was still a gap between them. Ethan reached out desperately. "Are you an idiot?" Serena said through her tears, reaching for his hand. "I'm not letting you go again. Not even in death," Ethan lunged, grabbing her arm, his grip firm, his voice resolute. Serena looked at him, moved, a surge of love washing over her. It was only at this moment that she truly understood. All her previous worries were meaningless. Ethan was willing to risk his life for her. What more proof did she need of their love? She smiled faintly and choked out, "If we both survive this, let's get back together." Ethan froze, his grip tightening. "Serena, I will not let anything happen to you. You can doubt me on anything else, but believe me this one time. Don't be afraid, we just have to hold on a little longer. Ronan's men are nearby, they'll be here soon." Ethan saw the police cars approaching in the distance and let out a small sigh of relief, his grip tightening even more. Serena was losing her strength. She looked up, exhausted, and smiled. "I believe you." Just as she spoke, a tearing sound came from above. Serena's eyes widened in horror. Ethan, the makeshift rope, couldn't support the weight of two people. It was already half torn, and Ronan's team hadn't arrived yet. "Serena, I didn't cherish you before. If we both survive this, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Ethan's face paled, but his grip on her arm only tightened. Serena's vision was blurred with tears. She nodded faintly. With a final rip, the fabric gave way. In the moment of their fall, he held her tight and they plummeted together. Serena squeezed her eyes shut and hugged him back fiercely, but the expected pain never came. They seemed to have landed on something soft. Serena, lying on something soft, slowly opened her eyes. "Good thing I made it in time." A cheerful male voice came from above. An inflatable cushion had been set up just as they fell. They had landed on it directly. The fall wasn't too high, and they were both safe. "Hurry up, get me that Isabella Vance and bring her down," Ronan shouted, turning to his team. Two squads immediately split off and rushed up to the roof to apprehend her. "It's over. We're safe." Ethan let out a breath and laughed, holding Serena tight. Serena said nothing. They just looked at each other, their eyes reflecting one another. "All right, you two, stop with the public displays of affection. You're making me sick," Ronan yawned, teasing them. He then grinned and sidled up to Serena, greeting her respectfully. "Nice to meet you, sister-in-law." He then winked at Ethan. "Sister-in-law is so beautiful. I wonder if she has any sisters she could introduce to us brothers." "Come to the wedding in a bit," Ethan replied, in a good mood. "Daddy," a small, high-pitched voice cried out, and a tiny figure rushed out of the building. Leo's face was red, his eyelashes still wet with tears. He threw himself into Ethan's arms and wouldn't let go. Ethan wiped his tears and soothed him. "It's okay, it's all over now." Serena also hugged her son, comforting him. Ethan looked at the two of them, a final wave of relief washing over him. Isabella Vance was convicted of attempted murder. Ethan handed over all the evidence he had collected over the years, implicating several members of her family. After their rescue, Ethan was fine, but Leo was hospitalized for shock and exhaustion. Serena was peeling fruit for Leo in the hospital room. The local news was on TV. When Ethan heard the report, he glanced at Serena, about to say something. Serena's expression was calm. She handed the peeled apple to Leo. "Okay, let's change the channel. There's nothing to see." Ethan relaxed, his hand, which had been clutching his phone, also loosening. He hung up. "The doctor said he can be discharged tomorrow," he asked, stroking Leo's head. "Yes, the doctor said he's mostly recovered." Serena smiled wearily, turned off the TV, and replied casually. Ethan smiled and took her hand, his voice filled with joy. "After Leo is discharged, we'll get married. Isn't that a little fast?" Serena blushed and looked down. Ethan pulled her into his arms, his voice more serious than ever before. "Serena, we've missed so much time, so many misunderstandings. Now that it's all over, will you marry me? Will you spend the rest of your life with me?" Ethan's voice was quiet, but every word was clear in Serena's ears. Her heart pounded like a drum. She slowly nodded. "Serena, marry me?" Ethan produced a diamond ring from nowhere, knelt on one knee, and held it out to her. Serena's eyes welled with tears. She wanted to cry, but she had never been happier. "I will," she said, taking the ring and placing it on her finger. They embraced tightly in the hospital room. Serena and Ethan stayed at the hospital day and night. Just before Leo was discharged, an unexpected visitor arrived. Serena saw Matilda Hawthorne standing at the door and, after a moment's hesitation, was about to close it. Matilda quickly blocked the door. "Serena, I'm not here to make trouble for you." Ethan, hearing the commotion, came over. Seeing it was his mother, he reluctantly opened the door. "What are you doing here?" Matilda looked older, more tired, with more white in her hair. She sighed, looking at the two of them. "I know you don't want to see me. I was wrong before, but you can't just ignore me." She took a deep breath and pushed her way in. "I know you resent me. I was wrong in the past. But you should at least tell me about your wedding." Ethan glanced at Serena, then sighed. "The wedding is next month. If you want to come, you can. Just don't try to stop us." Matilda finally relaxed and smiled, her eyes searching the room and finally landing on Leo. "Then, about changing the child's last name, that should be on the agenda soon, right?" Ethan didn't answer, just looked at Serena and said flatly, "That's up to Serena. If she wants to change it, she will. If not, she won't." Matilda frowned, about to argue, but when her eyes met Serena's, she looked away guiltily. After seeing Matilda off, Serena went downstairs to get lunch for the two boys in her room, only to see Ryan Foster waiting on the first floor. She hadn't seen him since the incident. Serena was about to just say hello and leave, but Ryan called out to her. "Serena, I want to talk to you." Serena remembered seeing Ryan in the corner after her rescue, covered in blood. Her heart softened and she agreed. They found a coffee shop near the hospital. Serena took a sip of her coffee. "Are your injuries healed?" Ryan seemed a little flattered and rubbed his nose. "They're fine, just some scrapes." "How about you? Are you okay?" "And Leo, was he too scared?" Serena shook her head, a faint smile on her lips, softened by the steam from her coffee. "I'm fine, but Leo, he's been having nightmares since then. At first, he wouldn't even see strangers, he would just cry." Ryan frowned, worried. "Is he getting better? I know a professional child psychologist if you need." Serena shook her head, cutting him off. "Ryan, it's not that serious. Leo is slowly recovering. You don't have to feel so guilty. The outcome wasn't so bad." Ryan lowered his head in remorse. I'm sorry to Leo. If I hadn't lost my mind," he covered his face, his voice choked. "I can't forgive myself." Serena's heart ached. All these years, Ryan had been not only her savior and her confidant, but also the one who had helped her through it all. "Ryan, I don't blame you, and Leo doesn't blame you either," Serena said softly. Ryan gave a bitter smile. He knew that even though Serena forgave him, things would never be the same. He wiped his tears. "I heard you and Ethan are getting married soon?" Serena nodded and handed him an invitation. "Next month, I hope you can come. Of course, I have to be there." "I've never seen you in a wedding dress," Ryan said, forcing a smile as he took the invitation. "Great! Leo's been complaining that no one tells him bedtime stories anymore," Serena said with a small smile. Ryan froze, then looked away. "I'm going back to the UK in a while. I wish you all the best." Serena's reaction was calm. This was expected. With Ryan's talent, it was only a matter of time before he went back to the UK to further his career. "You too, be happy." After parting with Ryan, Serena slowly made her way back to the hospital with lunch, only to see Ethan waiting for her at the entrance. "Why did you come down? Is Leo asleep?" Serena smiled, quickening her pace. Ethan took the food from her, his expression a little complicated. "Where were you? What took you so long?" Serena thought for a moment and subconsciously replied, "The flower shop over there was having a sale. I went in to have a look, but I didn't see anything I liked." Ethan seemed to let out a breath of relief. "I thought you had disappeared." He smiled, relieved, and took her hand. Serena was silent all the way back to the room. Only then did she speak. "I was lying just now." Ethan raised an eyebrow. "What? I didn't pass by any flower shop. I ran into Ryan Foster. We went to a coffee shop to talk for a while," Serena explained, her eyes fixed on his face. Ethan was silent for a moment, then said, "I know. I saw you and him parting at the coffee shop just now," he said. "Then why didn't you say anything?" Serena frowned, her tone almost annoyed. "I wanted you to make your own choice," Ethan said with a small smile. Serena laughed, a little exasperated. She grabbed his arm and buried her face in his chest, her voice muffled. "What choice?" "You're my only choice," Ethan froze, then hugged her tightly, the weight in his heart finally lifting. The days of anxiety and uncertainty finally ended when he heard her answer. Thank God Serena was willing to come back. A month later, their wedding day arrived. The wedding was held in Bali, with only a few close friends and family invited. Reporters from the domestic entertainment media crowded the entrance, trying to get the latest scoop, but they couldn't get in. The venue was a sea of flowers, with several cameras ready to capture every beautiful moment. Serena appeared in a flowing white wedding gown, her beautiful face partially hidden by a translucent veil, revealing only her delicate chin and red lips. Leo, in a small suit, bounced along behind her, a bouquet of flowers in his hands, his face beaming with pride. The man beside Serena was tall and handsome, a smile on his face that he couldn't hide. Ethan held out his hand and looked at Serena with deep affection. "Serena, will you marry me?" Serena looked back at him, seeing a lifetime in his eyes as the officiant's calm voice read the vows. "Do you promise to be with each other for the rest of your lives, for richer, for poorer, in sickness and in health?" They had been through so much, their lives so entangled for so many years. They were already a part of each other, etched into their very bones. Serena smiled softly and said, "I do."